Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Card. Believe it or not, we're almost at the up to episode 40 this week. And if you're wondering why we're looking a bit down on the dumps, it's not because of the lousy weather outside and the rain and all the rest of it. I'm looking tired and worn out because I've just been watching Aaron, who really is tired and worn out, has been like pushed to the end, to the brink, mate. How you going, Mr. Aaron? What have you been up to this week?
I'm so worn out telling other people what to do, aren't I? But it has been a busy week. Does it sound like this every week where I complain about how much I do? But this week is a interesting one. The archive of material, aka the Hoarder's House, that I've been clearing for the last couple of weeks. The University of Canberra finally organised for that to be picked up today. So helped organise a truckload of stuff, literally, out of the estate into the truck. It's on its way to Canberra to be sorted, digitalised, categorised, and sent off to the right copyright owners or where it should go. So I've had a super busy but very interesting and productive day. What did you do, Dags?
I love the fact that Ian's already feeling sympathetic for both of us. It's like, I haven't done anything today. It's Aaron who's been doing all the work. So I do appreciate the fact that someone's feeling sympathetic for me, but you don't need to. But I mean, when Aaron's telling me these stories, all I'm hearing is violins in the background. And it's like, oh, dude, hang on. I'll see if I can squeeze out a tear of sympathy. Nah, it's just not coming.
I was showing Dags before my precious 60s videotapes that I found. Before you wonder why they're not in the truck up to Canberra, the really important stuff I've kept because I'm going to drive up in 2 weeks and deliver it myself.
There you go. Rusky Babes has got it. So it's there, Hoarder's World, lots of crap, yuck. So there you go. So it's the story that just keeps on going. And it's it's all very good, very groovy. For those who've got no idea what we're talking about, you'll have to watch the last about 2 episodes back to get an indication as to what's happening in the world. Now, of course, tonight, aside from the fact that it's been raining all week, the Melbourne Cup was yesterday. Halloween was a few days ago. And of course, with Halloween, we had a brand new show. It was a one-off at this stage. Mr. Aaron, talk about your Halloween opus, mate. You must be pretty wrapped about it all.
Well, Halloween, we did a review of the Halloween franchise, blow by blow. Not me and Dags, because Dags isn't a connoisseur of the horror movies. Me and my friend Zach. It's up if you want to. We're not Halloween anymore, but you can still watch it because the internet's forever, isn't it? But we took a look at the horror franchise of Halloween, and if we get enough likes and enough interest, we will turn that into a horror show called The Graveyard Shift, which will be here Saturday nights late. Make Dag stay up because he won't want to. Give it a like.
Yes, very, very cool. What can I say? I'm absolutely hanging out for it. No, seriously, I'm just going to move my mic. I was going to say it was very, very good. A lot of people, there was a lot of good feedback. A lot of people really enjoyed it. Yes, very, very good. I'll tell you what, it is funny though. Like tonight, it's always Star Wars on tonight, right? Like last week at Tales of the Jedi, we've got Andor episode 8. Tonight is Andor episode 9. And I love it when people turn up to this show just to tell us they're not going to be in the show. They say, can't talk, Andor, see you later. It went to all that trouble, good on you, DJ, to come in and tell us you're not going to be here. Oh, I love that commitment. That's absolutely spectacular. So,
DJ,
yeah.
Star Wars is on as soon as it drops forever. We're only live for 2 hours. That's the opportunity to get to participate and join in with the community.
Love it. I do like the sound of that, but somehow or other, I don't think that's going to sway the lad. So, but it's very, very good, very groovy. There's a lot of good stuff going around. How's the shop going? I mean, you had issues with your window last week, I think it was. Has that all been resolved now?
One of your window was fixed quick this time, not like when we had the car through it when it took forever. So the window's fine. The shop is bombed out. Again, from this estate, we have hundreds and hundreds of boxes, not items, hundreds of boxes of items that we've got to put into the shop. It doesn't fit. We need a TARDIS. It needs to be bigger on the inside. We need someone like Dags, who is that pedantic that he finds something for everything off of the floor. How do you think that's going to go with what we've got in there at the moment, though?
Yeah, I can feeling when I walk in there on Saturday, I'm just going to be going, I'll be crying on my eyes before I've even stepped inside. So, but anyway, it's all good. Yes, if you do get a chance to check it out, the store that is, feel free to do so. All right, we're going to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff done. There's always lots to talk about. And of course, we're going to kick it off. Hang on. Greg has said, I paused Andor partway through to come and be here. Oh, now that's commitment. How good's that, Mr. Aaron? It could be in the middle of someone getting a bullet to their head, and he said, I'm going to hit the pause button. and catch up
Yes.
with the two of us yapping on. What do you reckon?
Greg King definitely needs to be committed.
Yes, totally agree with you on that one. And as it turns out, the picture that I put up is a Docky Who picture, so that'll make him happy. Anyway, we need to get on with the show, so let's kick it off. Now, you sent me through a stack of pictures, Mr. Aaron, of all sorts of stuff's coming out. Is that right?
I know, because I've got so much time. What I needed to do was be sending you pictures. There is a lot of interesting stuff, and I did want to cover it. I hope you've condensed it down to a few very pretty and info-filled slides.
Yeah, well, like last week when you had all the Docky Who stuff and I just plowed through it really quickly, this time I'm going to go a bit slower because some of the stuff is actually kind of cool. So we're kicking it off with some accessories, Mr. Aaron.
I know, and this is one of the things that I love that NECA do. Now, NECA make the figures from a lot of different franchises, and once a while they put out an accessory pack, and that means it hasn't got a figure on, but it's got items that will enhance the figures in that collection. Now, they've done it with the Predator, where you get skulls and bodies and things like that, but I think this is even cooler. This is a Back to the Future accessory pack that gives different heads and different items through most of the different movies. And if you've already got the figures, which have removable and swappable heads, they've given you a brand new head for Doc Brown with his mind-reading machine. You've got extra radiation helmet for the suit that Marty's wearing that didn't come with the figure. You've got Einstein. I mean, that's almost like getting an extra figure with this lot. You've got the radiation, the plutonium that was stolen by the Iranians, and then you've got your footwear. I don't think they can say Nike on it though, so it's just got footwear and a sort of generic, almost look like Nike sign. But the coolest one there, and this is because I'm a nerd, you've got Marty making the Live Long and Prosper Star Trek hand when he goes and sees his father. And I thought that's a really cool thing because you get a lot of alternate hands with different action figures and accessories, but I've never seen one do that outside of the Star Trek franchise before. What did you think of this pack, Dags?
Yeah, it was kind of cool, actually. And don't forget, for those who have forgotten, I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, so which is particularly cool. I don't know if you said that or not. Yeah, I thought it was kind of groovy. I mean, just accessories. And I agree with you. I'm surprised the dog is classed an accessory. I thought they would have chucked him in by default as a figure himself with something else. But good old Einie has finally made an appearance. And you got the number plates. And you are right with the shoes. They are kind of like, well, what's the deal with the shoes? But they're kind of mixing up their movies a little bit to a degree. But it's all good and all groovy. And of course, if they're going to head down this path, then you never know what else they're going to produce as additional extras as well.
Down
so, yeah, love it. Very, very cool. Good stuff. It says NECA on the shoebox. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a very, very groovy. Good stuff.
There you go. That's the way to get rid of around the copyright issues with Nike, doesn't it? So
now, here's a bit of a gag for you. Gavin has said he hasn't started Andor yet, but really enjoyed Tales of the Jedi. For those who don't know, Gavin just got Disney Plus like 2 days ago. Right. And I was just like, dude, not only have you got millions of Star Wars shows to watch, you've got millions of Star Wars review shows to watch, i.e. us. So he'll be watching TV for the next 100,000 years. And most of it will be us gurgling on about the shows that he should be watching. So very, very cool. All right. Now, so that's the Back to the Future stuff. This stuff has come out probably because the series is arriving. And there's one glaring omission from what they've produced. And it's the Willow stuff, Mr. Aaron.
Well, this is interesting. They've advertised it with the Disney Plus Willow series. It's coming very soon now and looks quite interesting. But then what they've actually gone and done is release stuff from the original movie. And the glaring admission would, of course, be Willow himself. I would presume when the new Disney series drops, that a new version of Willow will come out. But this is firmly planted in the 80s version where you've got all the original characters with the original actors, and they've actually done quite a good job for reaction, which are, of course, the smaller scale, so you don't get as many details. You've got Chaucer there and Bad Mona, who was...
No, it's Saoirse and Bav Morda.
Bav sounds like Bad Mona to me. I think she's a moaner. I think she moans a lot. She's pretty bad at it. But that's Joanna Whaley and... I've forgotten.
Give up. Move on.
Yeah, then we've got another couple of characters. I've forgotten the one on the left. Who's that, Dags?
General Kale, and you've got Mad Mardigan.
I should know that because my son's Kale, isn't he? But Mad Mardigan you've got there is Val Kilmer. So they've gone with a lot of the classics, and I do think these are a nice set. But for me, what really makes it is the packaging. I think the packaging with the classic Willow stuff on is great. If you like Willow, there's not a lot of merchandise. There was some for the original movie that actually sold okay, but you don't really see it anymore. But to have some new Willow stuff, if you're a fan of that franchise, is one of those things which is good. And you'll probably get a whole lot more leading up to Christmas with the Disney show coming out too.
Yeah, I was shocked actually because when you sent me through the pictures, I go, "Where the hell's Willow? The freaking movie's named after him. Where is he?" And it's not even there. I thought
Yeah.
even the girl would be there, the baby that have it like as an accessory.
Laura.
I've forgotten her name, but
Laura.
kids. I don't give a shit about kids. But yeah, good old Willow. It was like, dude, mate, where am I? If you were Warwick Davis, you'd be kind of a bit miffed to be going, "Hey, what's the deal with that?" So
Well, the best figure would be, the little tiny guys, and you just get two tiny ones in the bottom of a big packet. That'd be a pretty cool figure set.
Yeah, I think they're pixies or something. Yeah, exactly right. So anyway, but it is interesting after like 2.5 decades or 3 decades, when the movie came out, suddenly going, oh, there's a series coming out. Let's produce new figures for the movie that some people may not have even watched. So yes, you're right. Stupid Daikini. Completely. I love it, Mr. Ange. Well done, sir.
Well, that's because they're producing figures for guys our age, not children anymore.
That's exactly right. So there you go. Either way, you still should have had a bloody friggin' I was going to say a wicked friggin' figure. It's a Willow figure. Someone had pointed out that in all the movies that Warwick Davis appears, all his characters, their names start with W. So he's obviously Willow. He plays Wicket. He plays Weasel in like the prequels of Star Wars and Rogue One and whatever. And it's like he's just a W dude. So how's that for a trivia question?
The other thing I've noticed in all the things that Warwick Davis appears in, even when he does interviews and live stuff, all the movies he appears in, he's either a dwarf or a hobbit or something diminutive of size.
It's lucky I can't swear in this show because otherwise I'd be saying you're an idiot. I was like, where are you going with that? Oh my God, you're embarrassing me. All right, let's move on, shall we? All right, so you've had enough of the Back to the Future. You've had enough of the Willows. Let's stick with some Lucasfilm stuff and move on to good old-fashioned Star Wars. And with a lot of occasions, with a lot of Star Wars stuff, sometimes you do look at it and go, why are they bothering Joe? I'm going to say, Joe, don't encourage him. And guys, encouraging him as well. Unbelievable. All right, so a bit of Mandalorian stuff, Mr. Aaron.
Well, there's been a toy fair somewhere in the world. Do we even care? Probably not. But that means they've announced a whole lot of Star Wars figures. And this is what Dags was saying about, I sent tons of stuff through. We've got Black Series. We've got Classic Series. We've got right up to date Andor stuff. But yes, we're starting off with some of the new stuff. Oh, and here is Black Series Mara Jade, which is quite amazing.
Sorry. I wasn't expecting to go through them individually. Just say it's Paz Vizsla, right, done for the Mandalorian. It's all good. Groovy. He's a big-ass dude who doesn't do much. He's only in one episode, so I was just going to jump through it. It does have to be
no problem. I was going to ask you about the next one, Mara Jade. What do you think about Disney releasing stuff that they have canonically said doesn't exist anymore?
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, like Mara Jade has been one of those characters that fans have been asking for decades. And they still haven't made a canon at all. And of course, they're referring back to a book that came out in 1991 or 1992. So I don't know. It's just kind of cockeyed. To be fair, though, the figure does look really, really good. But unless you're into the whole expanded universe thing for Star Wars, you'll have no effing idea who she is. So yeah.
It is a fantastic figure that people would have loved 20 years ago. But you're right. I was thinking the same thing. It's a bit cynical where they gave all these figures the arse and then they released action figures of them. Now, this is another one of those where it's a stormtrooper from the old comics. It's not actually a stormtrooper. It's a different type of
trooper, apparently.
Yes. This is one of the best articulated figures I've ever seen. The poses you can put it in and the different stances that it'll hold, I thought was absolutely fantastic. I just wish they'd done normal stormtroopers like this.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
So this is an interesting one. This is the biker scout, the speeder bike rider, and it actually comes with the speeder bike. So you get this inside the packet with the speeder bike, which they're releasing, which is quite nice because we split it up. We're going over to Andor as well.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize they were both together. I thought they were two separate things. My mistake. So, yep.
No problem. So Andor, we were saying how there isn't a lot of Andor stuff out. They're releasing an Andor figure, and this is the smaller scale, and I think it's quite an amazing likeness when you get it at Star Wars figure scale. So not your Black Series. This is on the vintage carded collection. So I think they got the likeness right. The articulation's fantastic, and the costume is really spot on as well. What did you think of this one, Dags?
I like it, but I just don't think anybody's going to buy it. So, and this is obviously from the episode where they break into Aldani. So, yeah, and sorry, this is the speeder bike thing. So, sorry, dude.
Yeah, no problem. So it is one of those where back in the old days, it'd have a thing on the front saying action figure not included. This one actually has action figure included, and you get the speeder bike, which has now got a clear stand, so it looks like it's floating through your collection, and a very articulated speeder bike rider. And again, it's from the vintage collection, so it's the smaller scale, and I think they've done a fantastic job of that one too.
I'll show you a few more pics in a couple of seconds, everybody. I'm just looking at some of the images. There was Gavin said, "Where's Jin?" Well, she obviously was released for the Rogue One series. So Cass, the Andor figures are only for the Andor series, if that makes sense. So they're not releasing the Andor figures for the Rogue One show. So that's the reason why Jin hasn't been added in. Although it's kind of funny that it's just him by himself, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And everything else is just talking about good old what do you call it? Warwick Davis. I like this one. Yeah, Walliver. If you, okay, starting with, if you, that's right. If they're saying if he's going to do, there was a comment back here about saying if he should be in Gulliver's Travels, he would actually be a giant. So there you go. All right, so releasing, sticking with the Star Wars action figures, they've released a whole bunch of aliens, and this is just a real head shaking. Why did they even do this? But anyway, Mr. Aaron, I'm sure you got an explanation for us.
Well, this is obviously the day the Earth stood still assortment, because they've released Klaatu, Barada, and Nikto, and that's the only reason.
No, they didn't release Barada. They released he's a different character altogether. But you are right. They got Klaatu and Nikto. They're missing Barada. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there goes my theory. Well, they've just released a whole lot of Skiff guards and Jabba's Palace guards. These are always very cool because a lot of people like to have dioramas with them in for Jabba's Palace, and you can never have too much scum and villainy in Jabba's Palace or on the sail barge. So for those who manage to get one of the massive sail barges, this just helps flesh out the characters on that. Whenever Star Wars does aliens, I always think they are slightly better than the human figures, just because you don't have to get that sort of likeness to an actor that you can get more accurate with an alien. You can see that one's actually got cloth skirt on it, which is quite unusual for the new series ones, because usually they've done plastic and not really done much fabric assortments. And again, they've used the classic pictures from the old card backs on some of them with the new figures. Removable helmets and hats and sunshades on some of them as well, which is unusual. I don't know if they've done that on many of the monsters before. And of course, they're reissuing Yak Face, famous only because he was the most expensive figure of the original range. I mean, a lot of people love Yak Face, but I only think they love him because of that mystique of him being so hard to get originally. If you were looking at a lineup of all the monsters and aliens from Jabba's Palace, I can't imagine many people going, "Oh, Yak Face is my favorite figure."
I was thinking originally when I looked at the images of the aliens, I thought maybe they've picked them because these guys are quite prominent in the Book of Boba Fett, in Mos Espa, but not all of them are. And the Yak Face one, you go, what the hell? And this is an overview of what they've done, including a couple of things we didn't show. So,
yes. So this was the big announcement. I think it was London Toy Fair, just hit with new figures and pictures. So we've got through as many of them as we can, which blew the news out to a massive whopper size one this issue.
Yep, totally agree. It kind of annoys me. I can understand if you're doing a new show and you produce new characters, fine. But if you're doing old characters from a movie from 40 years and nearly 40 years ago, 40 years next year, and they're aliens and that, it's like, surely they must realize that, only even hardcore collectors will go, it's just not even worth doing. So, yeah.
See, I'm glad you're not in charge of product development, because they release very little new product from the old stuff, would they?
Well, I mean, sometimes there are things that they can do, and you can go, like they said with the speeder bike and all the rest of it. Yeah, that looks really, really groovy. But some of the others, like, oh gosh, seriously, you're killing me. Gavin's asked, has there been electronic Sarlacc with moving tentacles and mouth? That would have been kind of cool, but no,
that would be awesome, but no.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to just common sense. It's okay to manufacture, and you can manufacture anything you want. It's a question of whether people are going to buy them, and even hardcore collectors would look at some of those aliens and go, you know what? It'll take 1,000 years before they're worth anything. And it's not like, oh my God, my alien collection is going to look shit because I didn't add the latest version of Nikto into it.
Well, you say that, but we're here to educate. And the last round where they did these figures, they didn't sell amazingly well, like you said. But then Jabba's Sail Barge came out, and suddenly they are selling for hundreds of dollars each on the secondary market because no one bought them.
Oh, the Sarbarge I get because it's a big ass toy. I'm cool with that. It's something unique and different, right? But when you're releasing figures that already existed, probably multiple iterations from the from the 90s and the early 80s and whatever else, it does get to a point you need another one. Like you said with the Yak Face, it's like, what is the point? I mean, if it's one thing, if it's a butt ugly figure, it's like a real horse's ass. You go, who's going to want that? Imagine the little kid saying to his mother, "That's a $40 figure. Can I have one of those?" And we go, "Why?" And you go, "That's a good question." And he hasn't appeared anywhere else since. So, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Do you see what Gavin's done? He's giving reviews of the shows, 1,000 years of digestation. It's not that bad. We'll get through it.
It's not. Yeah, very, very good. All right, so anyway, look, if you run out and buy them, if you do buy them, good luck to you. Yay, team. But, like even I can see the Andor one, for example. No, I'd be surprised if anybody says, "Oh, my God, I can't wait to buy that." So, yes, very, very good. All right. Where are you? The comic book Mara looks. Yeah, we said that. So yeah, actually the figure itself does look very, very groovy. If only she was canon. Oh well, there you go. Very, very good. All right, so let us move on. That it was particularly exciting. There's lots of stuff coming out, and there was a great comment here from I've probably lost it by now. From Russell said, when it comes to Andor and Star Wars, no wonder he's snoring. You know what? With some of those figures, I don't blame you, dudes. I'd be doing the same thing, and I'm a Star Wars fan. Yay, team. Very good. All right, so it is time for us to move on. And believe it or not, it is this segment.
Useless Pop of the Week!
Now, this one, once again, I'm going to show you the picture of what it is. It's pretty evident as to what it is. That's bad English. See if you can work out what the character is. And then once you've worked out the character, you can kind of say, why did they pick this? All right, kids, go for it. What the hell, dude?
I like that he's dressed well in sort of one of the life preserver 80s jackets like Marty McFly, except his one's blue instead of red. But like I look at this one and sometimes the pops look bad and soulless. This one just looks evil and wrong. It's one of those things where I can't imagine anyone thinking this was a good idea or something that you'd be attracted to. Tinkerbell without her makeup. Close.
Yep. I love it. The first comment that came through was Joe, who's got no idea whatsoever. And Guy has said the same thing. This comes under the heading of why would you do this? And no one, we're talking about Andor figures that nobody's ever going to buy. No one's ever going to buy this, right? At least you can see the eyes. Daniel's right. Planet of the Apes, you're on the right track, actually. But yes and no. So Aaron without his hat. Collins picked out Moneybag Sullivan. Yes, Curious George meets Dune. Yeah, love it. Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Apes. Okay, yes, it is Planet of the Apes to yes and no. So, of all the characters they could have picked from Planet of the Apes, why did they pick this? The bad ape dude from War of the Planet of the Apes. What the hell, dude? Seriously.
It is one of those, and even if you look at the picture of it on the packet, that looks better than the actual pop, I think, because the pop, the eyes are so painted dark. It just looks like, Dr. Zaius after a night on the town and he's come back from, the morning after. I just think this is actually a repulsive pop that looks bad. Even if you collected them all, you wouldn't want that one.
No, I totally agree with you. As a Planet of the Apes fan, and this is from the new series, and this is from the third movie in the new series, War of the Planet of the Apes. And this was the ape that could speak, and he just kept saying bad ape and all this sort of stuff. Who would want this? Is like there's that whoever decided at Funko to say, yeah, let's make one of those because that's going to be a massive hit. We'll sell millions of those. Unbelievably bad idea. At least do Caesar and Zaius and all these other characters. Why would you pick this guy? It's like that is just like that. That is head scratching. I've got to say.
I know this one's destined.
I look at the funky gibbon. Very good.
This one is destined for remainder bins and cash converters everywhere. Because if that came in, I wouldn't even buy it for the shock.
And the funny thing is, because as a general rule, as I understand it, the Funko Pops are designed for family-going audiences, right? They're obviously pop culture. You'll get that, but by and large, a lot of this stuff is for family orientated, for young people, old people, whatever. Young people, kids would never have seen War of the Planet of the Apes. I always get it wrong. Because it's a bit hardcore. It's a bit of an MA movie. It's it's not particularly nice. So one, they wouldn't have seen that. Two, they wouldn't remember this guy because came out years ago. And then of three, as we've said, nobody would say, "Oh yeah, I'm hanging out for that dude." It's like, nah.
Yeah. Well, do you know what that pop looks like? It looks like they've taken a normal pop with big ears, maybe Prince Charles, and then they've put him in the dark crystal like essence sucker, and then it's just sucked all the life and like his eyes have become withdrawn. That's what you get, a crap bad ape pop. That's our useless pop of the week.
I can imagine when they produced the prototype of it and they put it into the marketing's hands, marketing just looked at it and said, who the freaking hell's that? It's the bad ape from War of the Planet of the Apes. Ago. Who? I was like, don't worry about it. Just market it. It's all good. It will sell millions of them.
This is Funko. They put it into the marketing hands and they go, who the hell is this? Genius.
Yeah, well, exactly right. Well, so anybody watching this show right now, here's a gag for you, right? When I'm not there, arrange for someone to pop into the store and say, excuse me, have you got the bad ape from War of the Planet of the Apes pop? But you got to do it with a serious face, though. Actually, go to all the toy stores everywhere. Right, with your Zings, your JP Hi-Fi, whatever, anywhere that sells big pops, and just go. Have you got the? You got to do it seriously, no mucking around with a deadpan face. Have you got the bad ape from War for the Planet of the Apes? And of course they're going to go, huh? And you go, fine, I'm off to Aaron's Collectables.
Well, if you wanted to be really rotten, you'd ring every shop in the area and say, this ape called Bad Ape's coming out. I'd like to buy 10 of them. Can you get them in for me, please? And then the day before or the day after they come in, just go, oh, I don't want them anymore. And there'll be all these bad ape pops stuck everywhere because they're never, ever going to get sold. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. I heard they are making a new Poacher movie. No, they will not be making a new. After the trilogy they just had, they won't be touching it again for a while, and he won't be making a comeback. So whoever told you that, should run out and buy some pops. All right, so of the bad ape. Yes, very, very good. That's good stuff. All right, so after all that exciting stuff, and there was a mention earlier of our good friend Mr. Ronnie, wait till you see what's been going on and now, because it's now time for this. So, Mr. Aaron, you've been having a bit of correspondence with our good lad, Mr. Ronnie, over in Asia. Got some updates for us, old son?
Well, yeah, I thought after last week where he was getting off the hook quite a bit, I'd push the friendship and see if I could get anything for free from him. And it was quite interesting. Although after I went through it, because I was doing it to try and be funny, I kind of realized, oh, I've just shot myself in the foot and wasted all this credit. But let's have a look at what happened.
So for those who've been following the long story, Aaron confirmed that he spent over $260 of extra charges regarding items that he either never received or additional shipping charges. So there's $260 in credit sitting around somewhere. Last week, Ronnie was claiming that it all went to him because he had to pay for the reviews of the products that Aaron had received. And of course, that did not go down all that well. But what do you reckon happened now? This is all correspondence, text-based stuff that Aaron and Ronnie have been having amongst themselves. And, of course, the first one we're coming up with is a message that you sent back to him, okay, about the $260. That's a lot of money. $260, it just seems to be disappeared. So let's find out what happened.
Yeah. Dear Ronnie, I have been a loyal customer for almost a year, and it distresses me that I am owed $260 for stock that didn't arrive and postage that was never used. I know you don't issue refunds, but how about you let me have credit for items you can send me? This would be very good customer service gesture. What do you think, your friend Aaron?
So just the thought of saying good customer service is just amusing unto itself. So we've got the $260 that's outstanding. Now, one of two things can happen here. There's always one of two things going to happen. Either Ronnie says, mate, that is an awesome idea. Go nuts, buy, and we'll just send you all this stuff for free. Or he's going to say this.
Aaron, you sound like a record that is not working well. Where is my items? Send me replacements. I want a refund. I have told you after all the correspondence we have had, I have decided we are even, and I looked into your orders and gave you good report. There is nothing we can do. What do you expect more, Ronnie?
Now, of course, that's just not good, is it? Now, don't forget, fans, Aaron has got items outstanding that have disappeared, and everybody will remember the small home for hobbits that has just never, ever appeared anywhere else. But, yes, Joey, define customer service. That is an absolute ripper. So, yes, a long time ago in a place called Ronnie's Land. So there you go. So you're not getting your $260 back, dude. So he's clearly just said, too bad, shove it up your jumper, son.
What Ronnie realizes is he's dragged it out so long that I can't do PayPal claims on most of this stuff. So I'm now trying to eke whatever I can out of the deal just for fun.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, so what do you think? So you sound like I love the fact that you sound like a broken record. Where's my stuff? Oh, God damn it. Why haven't it arrived? Oh, yeah, like squeezing our tears of sympathy for him. What can I say? All right, very good. So what did you have to say back to him?
Hi, Ronnie. What do I expect? Maybe you could show me a list of things you could send me for free as substitute for items I'm still owed. Aaron.
So what do you reckon his response is going to be to that? Is he going to say, yep, top shelf, go for it, sir. There's plenty here to pick from, and we are good to go. So maybe he's going to see it your way. What do you reckon, dude?
So I send list and you pick from this list, and then we are even. And you will only order more and not ask where missing items are or demand refund. Ronnie.
Love it. Very, very good. All right. So he's going to send you a list, apparently.
So I sent that, and then it took about 4 days before I heard from him again. And I guess he's gone to the warehouse and seen what's free stuff he can get me. Before you show the pictures, were you impressed by the options he gave me, Dags?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. What can I say? Eh? All right, but we've got a bit more text first before we get to the pictures. So here we go. This is what you had to say back.
Hi, Ronnie. Sure, if I get something and it is what it is advertised to be, then I will call it even and not demand more stuff. Even the soul Greg King agrees. Aaron.
Wow. How good is that? So did it work?
Okay, boss. I'll see what I can do. Ronnie.
All right. So fans out there. So Ronnie's going to run out and find out what Aaron can get effectively for free, even though it's not for free. Now, you got to remember, this place has a lot of really cool stuff, as we've seen from the photographs of items that never get delivered the way they meant to look. What do you think? Now, if you were in Ronnie's shoes, for those who are out there, what do you think? Would you go top shelf and go, you know what? I've got big-ass statues of these things. I've got Hobbit homes that are still sitting in boxes that can't get delivered anywhere. I'm going to send this off to Aaron. He can pick whatever he wants, and he's going to get it for nix. How good is this? What does everybody out there have to think about that? So he sent through the list, and this is what Ronnie had to offer. Now, fans, I've got to say, when I saw this, I thought, mate, I don't know what Aaron's problem is. As far as I'm concerned, this is an absolute no-brainer. Buy it, take it, the A-team. Let's have a look.
Hi, Aaron. I have checked with Warehouse and think we can do this. Here are some items you can have for free. Just choose. We will not judge you. Ronnie, small home for cat. Many styles to choose from. You can pick one if you wish.
And for those who are wondering, it's an $18. One of them $18. The other one, actually, what's the other one? The other one looks pretty expensive.
The other one's
is like $30. So there you go, a small home for cats.
I guess
oh god, dude, this is too good. You're right,
Hobbit.
Absolutely right. What do you reckon, dude?
Small home for Hobbit, small home for cat. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, as it is, you could put the Hobbit in the cat house. So it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Yeah, small house for a Hobbit. Yeah, exactly right. So, small home for cat or a Hobbit. All right. So, what do you think Aaron had to say? Did Aaron go, "Oh, that is the coolest thing, man. I'm going the full pussy galore thing from James Bond. Send me over a home for cats." Or was Aaron a bit like not going for it? Let's have a look.
Ronnie, I do not want small home for cat, and there is a big difference between $260 and $18.53. Aaron.
So what do you reckon he had to say about that?
Hi, Aaron. This is great item. Mini light show in your pocket. Shine. I think he's meant to mean pictures, but pictures of bird on the wall. It's like magic show. Very lucky, Ronnie.
$3.11. No expense spared. Is that right, dude?
$3.11.
So what did you say?
Dear Ronnie, are you now just taking the piss, Aaron?
Now, you can imagine from his end, he's probably laughing his head off thinking, oh, mate, imagine you said, yep, give me the home for the cats and the light bloody thing, whatever it is. The mini light show. Oh, dear. Taking the mickey here. Well, exactly right. So, all right. So, in the end, I think you came up to a decision. You've actually gotten the list and you've picked something. Hang on, where are we? You've actually picked something out. So, let's have a look and see what Ronnie had to offer Aaron and to see whether you, fans out there, would go for it. Let's go.
Hi, Aaron. How about Lucky Cat for shop? You put this up in shop and I guarantee your shop will be much more prosperous. All the best, Ronnie. Now, this is fantastic because he's going down. This one's $2.14 worth of value. So, do you know what I thought for comedy? Do you know what I did? What did I say?
You said done.
Well, now you're talking turkey. I think it's a deal.
Good stuff. So you're going to be short 200 round figures, $257, and you've decided to go out and get it. Is that right?
But wait, there's more.
There is, because what did Ronnie have to say about it?
Hi, Aaron. This is much excellent. I will get it packed and ready for you to go super swift haste. All I need from you is $10 to cover postage. Ronnie.
Unbelievable. Hey? Absolutely unbelievable. I think that's what you got to say. Here we go. And I can't believe you did this.
Well, it's for the show. It's not because I think it's good value. Okay, Ronnie, I have just sent through $10 through to your PayPal account. I look forward to my lucky cats. All the best, Aaron.
It's so insulting, isn't it? I mean, you've got all this money that you've spent. You've never received the items, right? If he's picked out the piece of garbage, and then he had the gall to ask you for postage for it. Oh,
well,
dear.
The crazy thing is, if those cats are $3.25 or whatever with free postage, for him getting me to pay $10 for my free items, it was actually more using my credit than buying it through the website.
Unbelievable. Guy, you're on the right. You're such a joke. It's funny. We're laughing at it. I mean, I'm not laughing. It kind of shits me, actually. But anyway, before the show, it's all funny and good fun. But yes, unbelievable. I agree with you, Colin. Isn't that just like really sticking it to you? So yes. So now you are right. It's $270. Sorry, dude.
We do it for fun. Can you imagine people who seriously wanted to get items out of there and the frustration of trying to deal with this company?
Yeah, and that's what we've covered off before. It is, as we've said multiple times, it is actually a scam. Phil's got it down right. It's what a lot of baloney. It is. That's exactly right. So, but it ultimately you learn from dealing with these companies, and it's a risk. And I guess, I mean, it's kind of funny because in this modern world, everything's rated. You know, you go to McDonald's, you have a good experience, you rate it 5 stars. You have a bad experience, you rate it 1 star, whatever. Clearly, some of these companies must have unbelievably bad ratings. I mean, Ronnie has said multiple times that he gets emails from people yelling and all written in uppercase and where's my stuff and where's this. He even said, you sound like a broken record. So, but the funny thing is that regardless of how bad sometimes things are, clearly there's enough people out there still prepared to buy from them, probably because, as we've discussed, the prices are so cheap. And I guess it's a risk. You say, well, they've got a magnifying glass, for $5, whereas another site will have exactly the same magnifying glass for $80. You put out, oh, I'll go the Asian route through Ronnie, and of course, if it doesn't work out, you just don't let it slide. But of course, as we've said before, if 10,000 people do the same thing, the company, Ronnie's company's making a fortune.
You'd get a magnifying glass, and when you look through it, things would look smaller.
Yes, exactly right. Okay, Aaron, I could rip you off at half the cost of Ronnie. There's something to be said about getting into the industry of selling collectibles, but I mean, because he's in a part of the world that you can get away with this stuff, you wouldn't do it to local people. I mean, scrupulous people wouldn't do it anyway, but clearly this is unscrupulous stuff. So, an unscrupulous dealer. So, very, very good. All right, so that's the latest with good old Ronnie at Greg King's Cheaper Things. Yeah.
It is. It's still interesting and still happening and still unfolding. The last emails from that were today.
And it's worth noting, fans, for those who don't know, when Aaron does get stuff and they're actually it turns up, he still sells it in the store. And some things do actually sell. So there you go. So, you know what that means? It just means all things being equal, it is just capitalist dogs all round. I haven't used him for a while, so I had to chuck him in. All right, very, very good. Okay, so was it? Rip it off the card or ripping off the card? Yeah, exactly right. Certainly seems that way. All right, so it's now time for us to move on. And you wouldn't believe what's been going on these days, because it is now time for a little bit of this. It's time for a bit of the old Lord Vile's Vile File. And of course, as we've commented multiple times before, the old Vile File mailbag is always getting material coming through. And while you read out the comment, I've got something. Jacqueline's just sent something else like War and Peace here. I'll look at that in a sec. We've got a fan like Andrea. It's been going back and watching all episodes. What's the deal, Andrea? What is wrong with you?
I know, like more vile than anyone can take at once. Dear Lord Vile, I was rewatching some of the old files and saw one on Very Vile Inc. I know you stick to pop culture, but there are some amazingly vile tattoos with bad spelling. Can you do another Vile Inc. update? And remember, only dog can judge me, Andrea.
I love that. That was very, very cool. So, yeah, Andrew's definitely become a bit of a vile acolyte. So, if Alan Cole's watching this, dude, I think he got some competition. Now, Jacqueline's put through a long message. This is regarding the Greg King's Cheaper Things. I'm going to put it up on the screen because you obviously spent a bit of time typing this. So, I'll just have a quick look and I will clear this off. So let's have a quick sticky beak. So, this Jacqueline said, I inquired about you used iPhone, and the girl said, and I chatted. She seemed lovely and suddenly stopped answering. It made little sense to hang on, it made little sense. But something about my instincts. She was protecting me from being scammed. Asked her directly. She said yes and stopped writing to protect me. Well, I guess the whole thing with the Greg King's Cheaper Things, it is about scams, and but the thing is, we're aware of it, right? So I mean, Aaron clearly knows what's going on. But yeah, there would be people who do get caught out from these things. So when in doubt, just don't do it. And if you are dealing with unscrupulous dealers, then stay away from them. Any final words on that, Mr. Aaron, before we move on to some tattoos?
Yeah, I do think there are some good people that will try and say, hey, stay away because they've got moral scruples, but not many.
Yeah, exactly right. Greg said Ronnie's on commission; he gets paid per customer. Oh yeah, of course, it's a business thing. So there you go. I mean, the argument will always be the customer needs to be aware of what they're getting into. It's buyer beware and all the rest of it. And if you know you're dealing with people who are a bit 50-50, you've got to take it on the chin if the things don't work out the way they do. But from our perspective, it does make for a good segment. And there you go. Oh, look, this Lord Vile should violate Ronnie. Oh, make of that what you will. So hopefully, Jacqueline, we've kind of answered your question there. But yes, when in doubt, play it safe. So anyway, we'll look at Andrea right now. We're going to get a chance to look at the tattoo. I don't know what this happens to be. A dude on a horse with smoking a cigarette. Is that what it's meant to be, Mr. Aaron?
Yes, but I think it does say only dog, or maybe it is God, can judge me in the cigarette smoke.
Oh, shit, I hadn't thought of that. Hang on, I've got to get the magnifying glass of truth. Oh, yeah. My God can judge me. Yeah, exactly right. Very, very cool. But yes, Andrea becoming a vile fan. Oh, you got better ways to spend your Saturday nights. What can I say? But hey, if you're doing it, do it with the vile. What can I say? Make of that what you will. All right, so we're looking at tattoos that have gone a bit pear-shaped, Mr. Aaron.
Just remember, if you're rewatching old segments of The Vile, if you watch them too many in a row, you will go blind.
That's why I wear glasses. Yep, go for it.
Yes, that's why you need the magnifying glass of truth. We've got bad tattoos, a little bit of everything. It's a sort of catch-all of the internet rounds The Vile did. Now, The Vile is always looking for good slogans for the Vile tattoo parlor, and he's found some amazing ones here. Bron to die. Sounds like, I don't know, something Conan would say, Bron or Crom or something like that. Obviously, it's mean born to die, I would say.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to stop. Sorry, I've reread what Jacqueline's message was. She was saying that she seemed lovely and she stopped answering. It made sense to her, as in made sense to Jacqueline, that her instincts told her that she was being scammed. She spoke to the lady on the phone and the lady said that, yes, she was being scammed. So that's what that was about. Sorry, I misread it, Jacqueline. I was trying to do two things at once and it kind of screwed me up. So, so yes, there are sometimes unscrupulous dealers actually can have a heart sometimes because they're doing things even they know is wrong. So sorry about that, Jacqueline. I did kind of muck it up. So hopefully
Ronnie has a heart.
Huh?
Ronnie has a heart, but it's like all the things from there. It's miniature size, like the Maltese Falcon.
In the Maltese budgie, yeah, exactly right. So I missed what we're doing about here. Yeah, Bron to die and all the rest. I mean, look at these. I mean, seriously. I mean, these have obviously been done in prisons or something. So
I love when someone gets matching bad tattoos, though. I love him till death, do us part. I love her to death, do us part.
And they've actually gone to the trouble of taking photos and put them on social media. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Believe in yourself and never lose
hoop.
Lost hoop.
Yeah, it's hoop. Just there.
And
never lose the hoop, dude.
No pen, no gain.
Yeah, exactly right. Love it. And of course, he's at least had the smarts to write it on a spot that he can't actually see it. And I can tell you a funny story about that. I'm going to get to that in a second, right? So Jacqueline's just written in, apologies, your typo's made my messages hard to me. That's okay, Jacqueline. I was trying to read it really quickly, and I didn't realize until afterwards what it is you're trying to say. So it's all good. But yes, at least you're still with the show. Don't worry about iPhones and unscrupulous dealers. Stick with us. We've got the Vile file going on. It's absolutely fantastic. And I just wanted to point out that one of my mates one time, Jeffro, had a busted arm. He had plaster on his arm, and I made a point of writing my message under here. And he was looking like he couldn't see it, of course. He had to wait until he had the cast come off before he could turn it. That's what it says. Love it. This is an interesting one. One of the things that happens with a lot of people is when someone passes away in the family, they get a tattoo of them on their body, which sometimes is not a good idea. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
It is, and you really have to go to someone who can capture. There are special artists that are good enough to do photorealistic tattoos. Obviously, these artists are not the ones. The thing I always find is they try to put in details by shading, and then the more they put in, the more it sort of detracts from the picture. So you've got like almost an alien mouth on the second one, where the second pair of teeth looks like they're about to bust out, and then on the one on the right, you've got like I think she's a blonde, but it looks more like a
Yeah.
brunette, and it's just not come out right. So, yeah, if you're going to do one of these tributes on anywhere on your body, make sure you go to the right artist.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And of course, it was almost insulting for the person you're trying to remember. So, yeah.
Yeah, and these are the same kind of thing. And the one on the left is one of those where I was talking about, you know, when they try and put too much shading on it, it turns out from a lovely girl to something from the Blair Witch Project. But the Asian girl on the right there, that's a fantastic one because it's a horror tattoo. They obviously used the model, but then they got Samara from The Ring.
I look at Ange. Yeah, these are the photos after they died. Yeah, that's just classy, isn't it? Oh, that's just imagine that. You say, "Oh, I'm going to memorialize blah 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 who passed away as a tattoo," and you show it to the family, and they end up crying their eyes out, thinking, "Mate, that looks complete shit." It's like, who the hell's that meant to be?
Well,
Oh,
do you know what the tattoo artist did, Dags?
what?
They did it on an area of his arm they couldn't see. So they were like going, it must be okay. I'll trust them.
Well,
And then it wasn't until they get home they see what the job was.
love it. And of course, it doesn't just apply to human beings; it applies to pets as well.
this is pretty cool, isn't it? Because you'd think with the dog, I've always said with toys, you can get non-human things to look more accurate, and then the tattoo artist goes, "Well, hold my beer," because that dog at the bottom, the tribute at the top, looks nothing like that dog at all.
It's a different breed altogether.
Yeah, it looks like I was going to say different breed, and then I think it's meant to be a lion, but they must have shortchanged the tattoo artist because they got to the face and go, "Nah." And from the nose up, it's just nothing. I don't know what that's all about.
Well, the good news is they've said to the dude, because it's on his back, I said, "Mate, it looks grouse. Don't worry about it, right? If you look in a mirror, don't worry about it. It's just distorted because of the light. It looks awesome. People are going to love it." Oh, I tell you what,
And
that's absolutely
what a joker. You've got a friend there giving it a thumbs up, going, "This is an awesome tattoo." Like they're just laughing behind the guy's back, literally.
Yeah, and they probably paid a fortune for it too. But yeah, that breed of dog there, that looks like a one of the ones that the security guards have. The what do you call it? The big, not Rottweilers or something. But that one down there, that's a completely different model. So, I love it. Well, welcome to the Rip It Off the Card family. Oh, there you go. Cop that. So, yeah, it's very, very cool.
Now you can see there's a hawk there that's been eating a bit too much, or been at the pie drawer one too many times. And the thing I think is funny, and I don't know if it would have been a bad tattoo, but someone's got a tattoo of a wolf on their stomach, and then they've obviously put on a bit of weight, and the howling wolf looks more like a reflux wolf or something.
Well, I was thinking the hawk on this side, he's been slamming down too much Kentucky Fried Chicken. So, but he's put on a bit of beef. It's okay. But when I was looking at the one on the right, I thought, what part of the body were you looking at? Because imagine whipping your shirt up, going, "Check it out, kids! Get a load. You too could have one of these as well." And I tell you what, yeah, right. That wolf was. I thought it was a tummy. He's got different moons to howl at.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a tummy at first, and it might be a pregnant woman, but it's not. You can see it's someone sitting backwards, and that's their back.
I can't tell, dude. I don't know. Either way, it's not exactly flattering, but
no.
Yeah, maybe the dog's howling because it's hoping to be in a part of the body he's actually not proud of. Andrew said it's on his back. Oh God, seriously?
You can see either side, the legs. They're sitting forward with the legs at the front and leaning forward. To show
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yes, not entirely flattering. So very good.
That's Dags. That's no moon. So I find it interesting that Leia's got hope there. Do you know what she's hoping for? Cheekbones. And then you've got the Vader on the side, where you've got an obvious, pretty, I guess, rudimentary version of Vader. The only thing that might be that could save it, some parents get their kids squiggles or drawings and get tattoos of them to sort of be nice. So out of context, it looks like Vader's been at the pie drawer, but it could be some kid's illustration of Vader that they've decided to immortalize as a tattoo.
Yeah, I can't see that as being a smart move. Regarding the werewolf before, Rusky Babes said it's the were gut. Yes, we know where the gut is. It's definitely on that dude. Yeah, Darth Crown. I mean, that's one thing to say. Oh, yeah, your kid's gone and done a drawing of Darth Vader. You're saying, oh, I'll ever get a tattoo made of that. The kid will grow up and no doubt, with a bit of luck, turn into a better artist as well. Where's the logic of that? Just do what everybody else does. Get the picture and stick it on the frigging fridge. Anyway.
Yeah, it is one of those. So it is one of those things that maybe parents do that maybe they should think about more before they do it. I'm just speculating. The worst thing could be he might have taken an awesome Ralph McQuarrie picture of Darth Vader and go do this, and it's just a shithouse tattoo artist.
Yeah, he gone to the picture and the tattoo artist said, "Oh, it's gonna be $2,000." And the guy goes, "Well, I've only got like $20 here. What can you do for me?" So as an outline done. See you later. Dear. Oh, I like it. Yeah, just tattoo the fridge. Yes, exactly right. You can tell he wrote that in a hurry. There's spelling errors everywhere. All right, so see if you can work out what all this is meant to be, kids.
Well, the first one is Hulk Smash, but I don't know if they like really. You don't know until that's inked and coloured in, but at the moment, someone's obviously.
It's my kid's drawing. Yeah, that's what it is. Well done, Greg.
Yeah, and I thought you've got a really interesting Scully and Mulder there, where it might be the angle it's taken off, but like they've both got like Duckface XT files, the X-Filated files. And I just put that one of Fox in there because it's Fox Mulder, but that is another lame ass. Do you think that's a kid's drawing that was done as a tattoo again? That is really bad, isn't it? It's not Fox FM, that's for sure.
The worst part is that if you're like you in the fan community and you get this shit done to yourself and you show your friends, they're going to look and go, mate, you look like a complete tool. That is absolute rubbish. You'd be forced to wear long sleeve pants and long shirts and everything forever because you'd be so embarrassed to show this stuff. It's like, oh, how did you get yourself into this? Oh, I love it. The X-Vials. Oh, very good, Joe. How did you get yourself into these things? So
well, you know,
it is a massive risk. And I thought, I've always said, if you're an X-Files fan, just wear a freaking T-shirt. Done. Problem solved. Anyway, sorry, dude.
You know how sequels tend to always be the more they make, the worse they get? Maybe these were done for the movie The Tattooed Man 13, The Search for Dyslexia or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. All right, so here we go. A couple more.
And we've had before some Marilyn Monroe ones, and this is another Marilyn Monroe one, and I've got to say it's probably one of the most hideous ones yet. And then we've got Tinkerbell, but Tinkerbell's looking a bit, I don't know, a bit too busty for Tinkerbell. And I don't know about the face either. That's like maybe the Thai ladyboy version of Tinkerbell you see in a club in Bangkok or something.
Yeah, I love the fact with Tinkerbell, they've screwed up the whole thing, but they got the Norgs right, if you will. Yeah, definitely spent a bit of time on that. I like it's Angie, the search for perspective. That's exactly right. So
yeah.
The Fox on the far right is supposed to be the Fox motorbike logo. That okay, maybe it was supposed to be that, but it certainly didn't look that. That's strip Tinkerbell. Yeah, I love the sound of that. So
Sully, how accurate did they get the Fox motorbike logo? Was it a good one?
Yeah, I get the feeling the real one looks nothing like it. I mean, sure, it might have the Fox head here and have the X and all the rest of it, but and of course, if you're going to get a motorcycle logo, at least get a decent one like a Harley Davidson one or whatever. So.
The best thing about that Fox logo, you can turn it upside down and it's a ghost from Pac-Man.
You're an idiot. All right. Very, very cool. Good stuff. Yes. Tinkerbell, the stripper version. Yes, exactly right. If you ever see the movie Wizards, they have something similar to that, except the Tinkerbell, and that is a full-size person, but she is a fairy. Yes, it does a striptease. Long story. Good movie, worth checking out. Anyway.
I don't think you can call them fairies anymore, Dags.
Oh, actually, what would you call them? I mean, oh God, it's just this politically correct thing is just bullshit. A chick with wings. There you go. You can't even say that anymore, can you? So there you go.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. That's this show for you guys.
Yes, very, very good. It wasn't even a bad attempt at the Fox logo. Yes, exactly right. All right, cool. Anyway, let's move on.
I think these are awesome. You've got a Voldemort there, and there is some skill to that. It's just, again, with the eyes and the head and everything, it's just come out a bad tattoo. I don't know if this is real, right, but that arm looks very similar to the leg that the Vader was on, so maybe it's on the same one. What did you think of Lord Voldemort?
Is that Voldemort? I actually looked at that and I thought it looks like a variation of Riff Raff from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because I thought that was his hair. Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's his hands. He's like concentrating on
oh,
finding.
yeah. I got it now. Sorry, I thought it's like a Jar Jar Binks thing with the ears flopping down. Oh, kind of
But
balls.
the coat of arms is interesting because they've gone for Dobby, Stranger Things, House Baratheon, I think, Harry Potter symbol in the middle, and I don't know what the top left little figure is, and it's not a particularly horrible tattoo, but the mix of stuff just makes it wrong. You know, you don't mix fandoms like that, not in a tattoo.
Yeah, I totally agree. Colin said it looks like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah, I just didn't even register. I thought it looks like that's his hair. Ah, very good.
He's got no
yeah, it looks like
nose.
Peter Garrett. Oh, there you go. US forces give the nod, and you are right. Ange, the logo in the middle of the shield is from Charmed.
Oh, you're right. Yes, I was thinking it was Harry Potter, but it's
Quattro,
Charmed.
I think it's called. Oh, nerd. Very, very cool. Yes, good stuff. So whether it be Voldemort or Riff Raff, there you go. Take your pick. Oh, get a load of this.
Now, I did these ones. Well, one of these just for you, Dags. Can you guess which one I did for you?
While you're thinking about giving me an answer, Jacqueline, good to see Jacqueline still with us. Mutant transgender opera singer from The Fifth Element. There's a lot of words in that, isn't there? So there you go.
Sounds almost like something the Ninja Turtles would go up against. What you've got there is a candy skull version of someone, and I just don't think it came out right. Probably the hair just being like black mass just doesn't look good. Obviously, it must have seemed like a good idea on the trip to Tijuana when they're loaded with tequila, but when they got home, that's one of the ones that goes straight to the tattoo removalist. The one I did for you, Dags, is a fantastic fallback version of Batman. You've got to be impressed by that. You've got Gotham City rising out of the clouds with the Catwoman, I think, coming out of the clouds. She doesn't appear to have hands, or on one on the right side anyway. And then you've got like everyone's favorite version of Batman, the tattooed version.
It's very, I have to use the magnifying glass of truth. The Batman actually looks like a female version because this part here, it looks like it's got hair coming out of the back, unless it's the clouds. And of course, the logo hasn't been finished for some reason. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if it's got nipples on, that's just because it's from the Schumacher movies.
Yeah, exactly right. Look, it's not the worst one I've ever seen, but certainly not the best either. So you do wonder, because the last thing you want to do is like, hey, get a load of this, kids. And they all look at it and go, mate, put the shirt back on. It looks crap. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
Sci-Fi banquet. Oh, I don't know what it, and his bloody locks. Who's that? Hang on, is that the guy on the left, is it?
I think, I don't know. It's one of those things.
Cowardly Lion? Yeah, I don't know. So,
the Cowardly Lion after he ate his mother's makeup kit.
Looks like Cher. Oh, geez, that's a bit harsh. So there you go. Very good. So everybody's got their own interpretations as to what is on the left-hand side. So what are you trying to tell me about all these particular tattoos there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, the Vile has done some scouting for some new artists for the Violink Tattoo Parlor, and he's found a great fresh crop. So you can come in and get any part of your body violated.
Exactly right. Absolutely love it. Very, very good. Sorry, it was for Macbeth. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit too educational for my simple tastes, but well done there. All right, so very, very good. Okay, so we're just running a little bit behind time. We'll go through the next segment relatively quickly because it's very, very exciting. So let us move on before we get too behind. Oh, Mr. Aaron, it's time for this.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, fans, it's the eBay segment that we all love so much. And, of course, what you're going to do is just provide your answers as to what you think certain items sold for. What's the theme tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Cars. It's all happening at Car City, isn't it? But this is eBay. So we're just looking at collectible cars and what they've gone through. So how much would you pay for these die-cast classics?
All right, very, very good. So just put your bids in, so don't bother Googling it or anything like that. Just take a bit of a wild guess and see how you go. So some of these Aaron hasn't seen before. So it's going to be a surprise to him. So what do we got here, Mr. Aaron?
This is the Carlton Gerry Anderson 1/24 radio-controlled Fab 1 with Parker and Lady Penelope, a classic car that we've looked on in our Gerry Anderson segments before, actually.
Indeedy doody died. It's one of the reasons why it was put in. So it's mint in box too, even though it is used. So that makes it actually not mint in box, funnily enough. Very, very cool. Ange put the 65 cents in before the item turned up. So what does everybody else think this actually went for? Yes, it looks pretty. It's a radio-controlled Fab 1. Yay, team. Very good. Okay, Guy has said $770. What does everybody else think? Just quickly put your bids in. We'll race through this relatively quickly. All right, Phil has gone for 300. Colin's gone for 500. Jacqueline worth $2 million. Hang on, what? Is that $2 million? We're not talking about the real one. We're just talking about the toy. So I can't even imagine any toy going for $2 million. So, but I'll get a chance. You never know. If this goes for a bit of money, you might actually be the closest one and get a lot of change back. So there you go. William said 50. Ange has gone for 65 cents. So he's still happy with that. Rusky Babes has gone for 850. So Ange is definitely going the alternative route for this. William has said 400. And Jacqueline said she loves Lady Penelope. How could you not? If you haven't seen our Thunderbirds issue episode from a few episodes ago, you should check it out. It's particularly cool. All right, so how much you reckon it went for? Gerry Anderson, 124th Radio Control Pink Thunderbird, Fab 1 with Parker Mitten box, even though it's not because it's clearly used. It went for a whopping $101, Mr. Aaron. Do you reckon that's a steal or what?
Well, I didn't see this one, and I thought that's worth $80 all over it. So it's pretty close. They are collectible. People love them. Lady Penelope is a iconic character. The car is amazing, and it's Thunderbird, so people do look for it and find it. Yeah, I think that's probably about what it's worth.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm going to admit I thought it was a little bit closer, a little bit cheaper than I thought it was going to sell for. So Kelvin's still got to cough up an extra 50 so bucks, but he's good to go. Rusky Babes has said it was a bargain. Close but no cigar. Yeah, $2 million. Yeah, kind of a bit over the money bit, but not to worry. All right, next item up. Oh, here we go, Mr. Aaron.
So this is another classic car from this time from the States or Hazard County. This is the Dukes of Hazzard. It's the vintage rare 1981 Krona toy. In very good condition too. They're not saying it's mint, but it's in very good condition. So this is one that could be, is it worth more than Lady Penelope's Fab 1? That's the question.
Well, there's been 20 bids on it, so there was a fair bit going on there. And it's new, so it is still mint in the box, even though the box itself may be just classed as very good condition. But yes, all right. So what does everybody think? So Ange has gone for $65, and Colin's gone for $385. What does everybody think? And actually, it's interesting. Rusky Babes made a mention it comes with the same burning cross. Yes, there's a bit of a thing about the old Confederate flag in America at the moment. This may get banned at some point in the future. You never know. Phil's gone for 150. Rusky Babes has gone for 400.
The toy is banned.
Particularly cool, rare 1981. So
yeah,
there you go. Guy's gone for 1,200. William's gone for 400. Is particularly groovy. So yes, I've got to say it could be a bit of a hit. And William has gone for 95. So yes, everybody thinks there's a bit of money wrapped up in this particular item. The Dukes of Hazzard CB. I didn't realize. Yeah, it comes with the CB and car set vintage rare 1981. Absolutely fantastic. So how much do you reckon it went for, Mr. Aaron? It went for with 20 bids. That's got to be a good thing. It went for a whopping $565.
That's a lot of car there, isn't it? For that money. Dem Dukes, they did it again. That's my money. A lot of people have told me I look like Boss Hog. I don't see that.
I think it's Rusky Babes is at 400 and William, those both guys were both at 400. I think you guys kind of get it and you get to split it between yourselves. So there you go. One gets the CB, one gets the car with Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon?
I'll tell you what, William can have the car and Russell can have Daisy Dukes.
Oh, mate, there you go. What was the name of her car? Do you remember?
I don't. I never watched the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, okay. The name of her car was Dixie. So very, very cool. All right, so
yeah,
here we are. Third one up, Mr. Aaron. What do we got?
I heard her car was enormous, but we've got just a random set of cars here. And what's interesting with this, it's just been listed as collectible Corgi toy cars. Now, if you look at that, there's, I think, 2 different Batmobiles in there, and a lot of people are after the Corgi Batmobile. Now, these tend to go even in wrecked condition for quite a bit compared to what they look like. So someone could pick up a bargain here if no one spotted that there was a Corgi Batmobile in this lot, especially if it's got the original wheels. Someone might buy a damaged one to get the wheels to put original wheels on their new one or better condition one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and you are right. That Batmobile has definitely been through the wars, so you do wonder what the demand is. Funnily enough, there are people now who restore old die-cast cars, and you can see some videos on YouTube, and some of them look fantastic. They even got to the point where they reprint the boxes that they came in, and so they, even though they're restored and they've been modified, they actually look like the real deal. And I'll tell you what, the end result is pretty spectacular. So there's definitely a bit of a demand for it. So Colin's gone for 5, Phil's gone for 100. Moneybag Sullivan is gone for 90. Ange is 650. Well, that's an interesting sort of way of looking at it, Mr. Ange. William has gone for 50. Greg has gone for $2 each at the garage sale. So what's that? It's 12 at $16 or something like that. Kelvin has gone for 99. So Rusky Babes is at 150 and Guy is at 250. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they are all beaten up and they're all loose, but there may be a demand. One person may say, oh my God, that's the one I've been waiting for. So you never know. All right, collectible. I like the fact that it's used. Yeah, look at the Batmobile. It's definitely used. Used and abused. So, okay, collectible Corgi toy cars just chucked in as a group. Clearly, whoever has these just wanted to get rid of them. Someone put in one bid and said, yep, I'll take the lot. And they went for a whopping $5.
I think someone got that on the nose. Someone said $5, didn't they? Colin, you've got him. You've got the Batmobile.
What do you reckon, dude?
I think that was actually a good buy. You can pay a lot more for that in that condition because it's become one of those classic cars. I mean, they sold a squillion of them and people are still after them. That was one of your most wanted ones in mint condition at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw one in a box in 1993. It was $500 American, so it was like unbelievable. So there you go. Colin got that one, and Colin's a bit of a Star Trek fan. So, Mr. Colin, I've never even seen these before, Mr. Aaron.
I have, and I throw them back. You know, when you think of Star Trek, the first thing you think of is Matchbox cars, but not spaceships or shuttlecrafts, actual cars with the characters on the side. So Matchbox and some of the other car companies have done this thing where they get the rights to a franchise and then they make a car inspired by a character. They've done it with Star Wars. They've done it with a lot of other movies. The cars have nothing to do with the actual franchise. It's just that they've written it on the side of it or had a picture. So some people who love cars love these, and some people who love to collect Star Trek just think they're a waste of space.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've never even seen it before, and it is a bit of an unusual combination of the two. Rusky Babes referring to the last one, I've seen Batmobiles going for hundreds. Yes, it all depends on how it's listed. I mean, had they sold the Batmobile by itself, it probably would have done quite well rather than just saying Corgi cars. That's why we think whoever had them just wanted to get rid of them in a hurry. All right, Colin for this group has gone for $10. Moneybags has gone for 25. Ange has gone for 15. Phil has gone for 50. Ange has gone there in the reject shop. Oh, there you go. So someone's got the 6 and they've said, yep, offload the whole lot. I've got to admit, they actually look quite good, even though it was a bizarre sort of thing to market. I've got to say. So make of that what you will. No Chekhov, obviously. So poor old Chekhov got shortchanged.
Yes.
Guy has gone for 200 and William has gone for 75. So there you go, eh?
I
There's
love
still
how
the mint condition Hot Wheels pop culture nostalgia Star Trek full set. It got the full
Yes.
set, and was it got with a Volkswagen? Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yes, everybody needs one of those. So, how much you reckon it went for, everybody? They went for a whopping. There's only like 6 of them. They look fantastic. They went for a whopping $125, Mister.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked by that. I've had them in the shop and sold them for $9 each. So obviously, I'm not the capitalist dog everybody thinks. But these come through quite regularly in big collection of cars and stuff. And if you put collectible prices on, I have found they're quite hard to sell. But there you go. Obviously, there's a market for them.
Yeah, I think it's a question between William has to add 50 and Guy needs to knock 75 off. So I think it's still William, I think. So yeah, well, William, you've got it. But how about that? So yes, and it's very funny. It's been mentioned they've been shown in the reject shop, and all of a sudden, I think it's because all 6 are there. You get the whole set in one go. You'll collect them all, as we say, and of course, they're all mint condition. So, how about that? So, yes, very cool.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a particularly rare one there, and that's why they went for it. Often with stuff like that, you can get Kirk and Spock, but then you can't find a Uhura or something like that.
You beat me to it. I was going to say, I bet the Uhura one is the rare one. All right, lucky last. Oh, here we go, Mr. Aaron.
Well, this is toy porn, really, isn't it? There's a lot of men that would give their less testicle to own the double set with the Batmobile and the Batboat on the back. This is a particularly rare set. I'm telling you, if this went for under $1,000, someone got a bargain.
So I mean, you can't see the pictures on the side. It's not mint. It has been opened, and the car and the boat have been removed, right? And I think it's that picture just up there, right? So it's not mint in, huh?
Do you know what adds the value here? Original box, because I see some of these and every one of them has a reproduction box.
Yep, I totally agree. And why I couldn't believe it, I had this when I was a kid, right? So it's from 1976. I think it's mentioned somewhere in the original description. I had this when I was a kid, right? And we can obviously ruined it. And they did say, yes, the boat is in excellent condition and the box is in excellent condition as well. But they have been removed and put back in again, right? So
Yeah.
16 bids, kids? What do you reckon it went for? Okay, let's have a look. 465 from Ange. Phil's gone for 500. Moneybag Sullivan's is 650. Guy's gone for 900. After you've been talking to put the price up even higher, Colin has gone for 1250. And William has gone for 1,500. I've got to say, this is actually a very, very nice piece. Rusky Babes has also gone for 1,500 as well. It is particularly cool. Vintage Corgi Toys Batman 267 from 1976. And the Bat both gift set in the original box, even though they have been taken out of the box. It does look very cool, and I agree with you. The box looking that good is an absolute winner right across the board. So how much do you reckon it went for, everybody? 16 bids. It looks very, very good, very, very exciting, and went for a whopping $432, Mr. Aaron. They were chucking them away.
That's a bargain. I've seen these go up to $4,000. So that was quite cheap.
Yeah.
Andrew's dead on. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Andrew's obviously been shopping on eBay recently. So, yes, I've got to admit, for its age and its quality, even though it's come out of the box, it's actually in pretty good nick there, Mr. Aaron. What do you think?
Yeah, it had quite a few bids on as well. I'm surprised about that. But there you go. If you you can still find a bargain on eBay once in a while.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, so that's the end of our eBay section. We had to rush through because we've got our next segment coming up. Just very, very quickly, for those who haven't forgotten, make sure you check out our Sci-Fi Zone socials on Twitter and Instagram and all that other stuff. Other shows that are always coming and going, so there are always things to catch up on, including the Halloween show if you didn't get to see it last week. And, of course, as discussed earlier, got Aaron's store. You've got to go and check that out, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon?
And I'll just say about the social media stuff, if you are on YouTube, find us and like us and subscribe, not because you will get junk mail from us or anything like that. It actually means other people can find us if you do that, because we get promoted through YouTube. Yep, the store is always there. Come in for a chat or come in and buy stuff, because that helps us stay open.
Excellent work, Mr. Hang on, what have I done? Whoa, I pressed the wrong button. All right, very, 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 very cool. All right, so guess what? And I just got to press this, get rid of that. Thank you. All right, now it's time for our feature presentation, Mr. Aaron. And what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we've been doing a two-part one. I guess it could have been one part on each show that we've done in the end anyway. Last week we looked at UFO, and this week we're looking at Space 1999. And these are, of course, Gerry Anderson's probably most famous live action space shows. Tonight we're looking at Space 1999, which is one I do actually remember watching and was repeated here a few times, so I grew up with. Did you watch Space 1999, Dags?
Not at the time when it first came out, but later on I certainly did. And I love the premise of it, because, obviously when it was made in the 70s, 1999 seemed like 1,000 years away. Like, oh my God, anything, the future's just like unwritten at that point. And the idea that they're on in the moon base Alpha, and the moon gets nuclear related issues, because obviously in the 70s nuclear was a bit of a concern with everybody, and the idea that they're stuck on a base and it's just floating around in space, that's a freaking great concept. The only thing that always used to shit me was the clothes, but the fact they had the big ass flares. If they could just get that and digitize the clothing and take the flares off, it would look spectacular. But it was an excellent show, and it did very, very well for itself.
It's funny how science fiction often takes the cutting edge fashions and uses it, instantly dating it when those fashions move on. It's interesting they don't go for more neutral fashions, but there you go. I guess they've got to look hip to the people at the time as well. So I think the premise is exactly what you said. The nuclear waste that's stored in the moon ignites and pushes the Earth out of the solar system, the moon out of the solar system. I always wondered what happened on Earth after that happened, where all the tides went crazy and things like that. They never really go into that.
No, they don't. It would have ended quite badly for the Earth. And of course, if I recall, there were 2 seasons. In the second season, they changed a lot of things around, added new characters in. So I think for most fans, they go stick with the first season. It's the way to go. It's a bit more dramatic, a bit more serious. But I like the idea that you're on a base, you're doing your work, and all of a sudden, oh, mate, there we go. It's too late. We're out floating in space, and what will be, will be. So I thought the concept was fantastic. And when you look at the actual moon, the base on the moon, and like the visuals of it and the production design, you can certainly say, oh, mate, that'd be an awesome place to hang out, even though you're traveling through space, lost in the heavens. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Phil's got Space 1999 on Blu-ray. I have too. It is one of those series that I do put on once in a while. I do enjoy it, and it is a good series. And as you said, Series 1 and Series 2 are totally different tones. We've looked at that before, particularly with Earl and Alan's Lost in Space, where you have a serious science fiction and then it turns into Monsters of the Week. And that kind of happens with a lot of shows because you'll notice in these shows the monsters of the week are the ones people remember and talk about. So the producers then go, well, we'll pack more of those in, and often they're the less serious ones. And that's kind of what happened with Space 1999. And it also got Star Trek's favourite producer for the last second series as well.
It might have been also one of the rare occasions, oh, not rare occasions, where because it was a British show, British hardcore sci-fi. So and because it's not set on Earth, it's so rare to find a show that's not set on a planet. Even in movies, you think of all the movies that are not set on Earth. There's only like a couple, right? The Star Wars series in June, and to the best of my knowledge, that's it, right off the top of my head. And Space 1999 is not set on Earth; it's set on the moon that's flying through the cosmos. So all the trappings that you have with Earth-related things are all just missing. And for that alone, it is really true sci-fi.
And I tell you what, there must have been some powerful explosives in the nuclear stuff, because do you know how long it takes us to send something out of the solar system? But you blow up the moon, and by the end of the first episode, they're like, this will be the last time we can contact Earth as we float out of the solar system, kind of thing. And like, boy, the moon was traveling at some speed to get that far that fast.
Yeah, Rusky Babes has said they were told, told specifically no Earth. And if I recall, even in the pilot episode, you didn't even see the Earth at all. It was everything from the point of view of the moon. But I think a lot of people really dialed into the production design. And we'll talk about later, obviously, the ships, the Eagle transporters, just the look and feel of the base. And I mean, I would think as a young person watching that, thinking, oh, that is just such a cool place to hang out, the sterile sort of environment. You know, you look at the windows, you're seeing space and the moonscape. Oh, yeah, for kids, that'd have been absolute... like an image that you can really resonate with. And of course, that's probably why it has such a huge fan following even today.
A floating green woman going, Dr. Smith.
Well, that's the thing. You got to add the sci-fi element. In real life, they'd probably just be floating for 1,000 years, and you know they'd all just die off once they ran out of oxygen or whatever, and nothing would happen. I mean, depending on how fast the moon was traveling, which is probably not very fast, it would take them 100 years just to get to freaking like Saturn or whatever. So you think that they kind of got to play with the physics a little bit and add in the sci-fi alien aspect, but in real life it would be probably completely different. But yeah, it's a TV show.
You know, when they're going through the solar system, everyone's crowding by the windows to check out Uranus.
So I'm trying to be serious here, and you make a joke of it, eh? So absolutely fantastic. But yes, and there were people having breakaway parties in 1999, September the 15th, I think it was, and if that's the date. I'm not good with the date, but yeah, some people did have the breakaway party saying, well, and the worst part was you watch, it's like 2001 A Space Odyssey. You're watching it in like 20 years before it's meant to actually happen. You're thinking, oh, we're going to have a base on the moon by the year of 1999. By our real 1999, we had friggin' nothing. The ISS wasn't even built yet. It's like, we are so far behind the 8 ball.
Well, I didn't put it in the show, but there are parodies with Prince 1999. I
missed it by 2 days. Thanks, Rusky Babes. Yeah, September the 13th. Yeah, very, very cool. Good stuff.
Okay. Well, we talked about it briefly last week. We're going to look a tiny bit behind the scenes before we go into the merchandise. It was done by Gerry Anderson again. It was one of the most expensive series ever created at the time. It was £3 million for the first series, which is just astronomical back then for what they were filming. That's probably for the British film industry a movie. And they had... At the time, you had the people who'd worked for Gerry Anderson had gone on to do James Bond stuff, Derek Meddings and people and the model. So to come back and do TV, and it had American money, and because it had American money, they had American cast mixed with the British cast, and it was sort of dual presented in America and England. And you can see here, when you look at this is as fascinating for me as the behind the scenes of Star Wars. The models are huge and brilliant, and the sets that they're putting them in, because a lot of it was filmed in camera. Which means just it was filmed on set, and you can see they did. You got not the matte shots, the glass paintings and things like that, so they could line everything up. And the production was an ambitious one, even for Gerry Anderson. He's the most expensive series at the time. Now, it started life as a storyline for UFO, which of course had a moon base as well, but UFO hadn't been quite as successful as they wanted, so they thought they'd pivot it, and it was originally going to be the moon base from UFOs started sailing off into space. And then they changed it to a new series, because I guess if you launch a new series off a series that isn't doing as well, you've got the possibility of grabbing a new audience. And also they had had ideas for another series, and sort of we talked about this last week as well, which they turned into a movie called Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, which has also been called Doppelganger. And it has a lot of the concepts that they were going to use, and about a planet on the far side of the sun that looked exactly like Earth. It was done by Gerry Anderson. The model work is very similar. I think they were testing stuff for Space 1999, and it was kind of a setup for it. Had Roy Thinnis in as the main actor. Do you remember what he was from, Dags?
No.
The Invaders. So he was quite used to dealing with UFOs and stuff. So this is the production that they were cutting their teeth on and gearing up before they went into film production for Space 1999. It is a good movie. It used to be on sometimes in the sort of afternoons, and I'd catch it and always watch it because it was like Thunderbirds level special effects with a really cool story with British actors and American backing. So don't get much better than that for a lazy Saturday afternoon.
Indeedy doody doody. Andrew's made a point about saying all the nuclear waste they put in the moon. If they could have done it in real life, that's exactly what they would do. If they said today, "Oh, we've got all these nuclear reactors around the world trying to be environmentally friendly, all nuclear waste, where can it go?" Because like even today, you're trying to bury anything anywhere, and people crack the shits over it. Send it up to the moon, and you can guarantee it. That's exactly what would happen. And then one day in real life, 100 years from now, there really would be a nuclear accident up there, and the moon would go kablooey. So it's almost like predicted in the future.
I think we can all agree the best thing to do with nuclear waste is get Nuclear Man to throw it into the sun.
Good on you. You were talking about the show. One of the things that I did find that was like kind of irked me a little bit is at the start of the series. I mean, you like when the eagle comes down and blows up, you go, "Oh my god, that is just the coolest thing ever." But when they show you this episode and all flashing all these scenes, it's like massive spoiler alert. It's like, dude, mate, you show me all this. I don't want to see that. You're actually giving the story away before we got into the story. So, but that would have meant they would have had to have done that for every single episode. So I know it was the thing of the time, but as a viewer, it's like, no, I don't want to see what's going to happen. I want to be surprised. Don't show me the bad guy, then show me the good guy killing the bad guy.
And the thing is, the best parts of the story are usually the exciting bits at the end. So they would usually show the end of the story in the coming next time thing.
We've just got one of the greatest quotes of all time. Aaron has a nuclear waste. Oh, dude.
Oh, well.
I'd love to see. I'll tell you what, Rusky Babes, when that reactor starts having a meltdown, you don't want to be anywhere.
That's too much KFC for lunch. Hot and spicy.
I thought Chernobyl was bad. All right, very, very cool. Good.
Okay, now we looked at this when we looked at Starlog magazines, and Space 1999 was very interesting because it's one of the few British shows that had blanket media, not just in Starlog, but a lot of American magazines. And Dags and I were talking about this when we did the Starlog show, and our theory is Star Trek had ended, and it was only getting more and more popular after it went into syndication. And there was a void on American television for a show like Star Trek. And out of all the shows that came out of the British television studios, Space 1999 probably has the most similar tone to Star Trek. I mean, it's got the music, yes, was very, very cool. It's got the American actors. So you've instantly got Americans more invested than they might be, but a lot of the stories are more of that, maybe a little bit more science fiction like Star Trek, and being in the uniforms with flares like Star Trek, and you've got aliens and lasers, and it's a very similar tone. It's just a UK version of it, and instead of the Enterprise, you're on the moon. Have you ever thought about that, Dags?
No, I haven't really sort of drawn those sort of parallels, really. Yeah, I suppose you could. But, I mean, I guess the key thing is with Star Trek, they're physically in the ship flying around, whereas these guys, everything has to come to them unless they're in the transporters doing their thing. But, I suppose.
When we go through this, we're going to see how this almost had a curse of being very like Star Trek, because it was before Star Wars and before science fiction took off. And the merchandisers used a very similar sort of rollout to Star Trek, with you've got Mego figures and play sets and stuff like that, and they really bombed at the time. And I can just imagine if this came out after Star Wars, they would have been top hits. It's just it was the timing of it, but we'll look at that as we go along.
I totally agree with you, and that had a lot to do with it because that was before Battlestar as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, just at the right place at the right time to capture everybody else's imagination. Had it been a bit later on, it would have just really struggled to go places. But because even though it had like the main cast are American, it's still a British show, and with the British way of doing things, if you will. And I guess by that point, Doctor Who's still going through the 1970s, but American audiences are probably still just used to American shows. And to see something like this, they had to really sort of dial into say, okay, this is how they do it on the other side of the world. And but the quality was always there, and I think that always helped it get sold in a big way.
If you are going to evoke those evil words, Docky Who, if you compare the special effects in this to Doctor Who, this just blasts Doctor Who off the TV screen. It really is a difference where you can understand from the viewer's point of view where they say, oh, Doctor Who has wobbly sets and shaky special effects. If you compared that to Moonbase Alpha and the Eagles, you can absolutely understand where that perception comes from. We're looking at TV times, which is sort of the radio times for ITV in the UK at the time, and it got a cover. It was launched in a big way on this in America and in the UK. It was one of those shows. Again, it probably didn't have the same press as UFO did a couple of years before, and it wasn't sexualized as much as UFO, where half the press from UFO you had a lot of sexy girls. This is a serious sci-fi show with some fantasy overtones, and they really market it as for adults. It's a new blast off into space and follow the trials of Moonbase as it goes out of the solar system and what they encounter. So the tone was totally different, even though it was a kind of similar show to UFO, and it was pitched at a more adult market. And this, I guess, has its pros and its cons.
Yeah, and that's probably why they changed things for the second season and made a lot of modifications and adjustments. I'm not really au fait as to why that occurred, but there was a distinct difference in tone will shift between one and the other. And I know a lot of Space 1999, it doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? 1999 fans don't regard the second season as much as they do as the first. Anyway, all good.
It's one of those things that depends the mood you're in, I think. But we've taken a lot of time looking at the British comics, and as with UFO, Space 1999 sort of comes at the end of sort of what I call the great era of British comics, which were where stuff was still being drawn in the UK and still had a really obvious stylistic difference from America. After this, when you get to the 70s and 80s, most of the stuff was reprints of American stuff, and a lot of this more detailed and more painterly type art sort of disappeared and isn't around as much. And this art is really highly respected today. To get the originals, it goes for quite a lot in auction, and there's bound volumes of the different storylines from this period that people collect because it is very hard to track down the originals. Look In magazine, probably not as exciting as Countdown or TV21, but this is where Space 1999 turned up, and you can see that it had quite a few impressive covers over the time that it was on TV. And generally with Look In, you didn't get like a solo cover. There's a couple there, but usually you'd have all the different elements that were in the magazine. Obviously, on this one, they were pushing Space 1999, though.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying something
else.
Phil said about comparing the SFX with 99 versus classic Doctor Who. Yeah, you are right. I mean, clearly one was way ahead of the other, but ironically, all these decades later, only one of those two shows is still going. So, yeah.
Yeah. And there was, of course, the comic book run as well, where Space 1999 had quite a popular comic book. But you can see where I've highlighted down the bottom there, I call that the more American style of comics, although at the time, I guess it was being used in the UK, where that sort of old artist sensibility had changed and they were going more for the Marvel look. So when you saw the previous page and every book is more of a work of art, they obviously went to the cheaper paper and then the quicker illustrations. And that's because the ones that were coming out in Look In, there was 2 pages each week, where the ones that are coming out in comic book form, there's probably about 40 pages once a month or twice a month, so you have to have a quicker style to get it out. But I do like that you've got both styles with Space 1999. So if you like that old painterly style, you can see that, or if you like the Marvel comic style or the more American style, you've got them as well. And I've highlighted that Seeds of Doubt with the eagle in space. That is a great comic book panel, even though it's from just a black and white comic. They really do look great, the eagles from Space 1999. And if I was a kid, I think that was a fantastic looking spaceship. The interesting thing about that, the original version of the Millennium Falcon, which is the longer version, I do see that sometimes and wonder if they were inspired by the eagles from Space 1999.
Yeah, there is that story going around that was the case and they had to change it accordingly. And the funny thing is, I did hear a story once that someone from NASA said that if they were going to build a ship that was actually going to fly around the moon, the Eagle is the closest to that design that they would use, because it looks practical rather than just building to make it look pretty. And for that reason, and the idea that you can have the pods in the middle and change all the pods around and everything, and it's like, yeah, it's very well thought out. And I think a lot of people just got dialed into it because of that. So you can have really cool looking ships that still look unbelievably functional at the same time. And of course, when they're landing, all the special effects, they're landing with the shock absorbers and everything, just those details. Just if you're into hardware and technology, you just go completely apeshit over that because you always believe it's the real thing. So yeah, very cool.
Russell's brought up the Dragon's Domain monster is actually more like the green slime monster. That's one of my favorite episodes, and it does look like the green slime monster.
Yep.
So we've kind of slid through across from comics into comic albums and soundtracks, and Space 1999 was one of those fantastic shows that had the read-along books, and you've got one fantastic one there that I've never seen, but it's got to be great if they're finding Space Noah and his Ark, because that's very hardcore science fiction, isn't it? And then you've got the soundtracks, and as I think Colin said earlier, the soundtracks for all the Gerry Anderson shows are fantastic, and this was no exception. Space 1999 is an instant, really recognisable theme, but also the cues and things in the show that give it atmosphere. You can tell straight away it's a Gerry Anderson production because he had a very similar house style for a lot of the things he did.
Angela made a point of saying that they had an Aussie pilot. Yeah, Nick Tate, I think the actor was, and it turned out he ended up doing voiceovers for movies. He was the one to say, "In a world 5,000 years from now." That was his job. He ended up doing a lot of those, and I thought, oh, fancy that. So, but yes, it was good to have a bit of an Australian representation on the ship, and he was a very popular character too. So, flying around in his eagles, having a whale of a time. So, yeah, good stuff.
What I liked in the 70s and in this show, they had a very diverse cast, but they didn't crow that it was a very diverse cast. It just happened and everyone accepted it, which I think is fantastic.
Yep, totally agree.
And Space 1999 is probably the first series from Gerry Anderson that spawned more than a couple of books. Like most of his series had a couple of paperbacks, but Space 1999 had multiple series written by different people that had the episodes novelized and then also had original stories that continued on. And this was one of the series, and a lot of the Gerry Anderson stuff was hard to find in Australia, but I do remember seeing a lot of the Space 1999 paperbacks, and I used to pick them up and sell them at science fiction fairs, and they'd always go. And I thought they're very, very of their time, where you've got that paperback, you've got the logo from the show, then you've got a couple of pictures from the episode, which was kind of ahead of its time because a lot of the other books at the time were illustrations and artists, but this was before a lot of the other books were putting photos from the episodes on the cover of the book. So these are a nice little series of books. And at a time before the internet, finding pictures from shows you could only find in magazines or occasionally posters. So having pictures on the books, I always love that. After the internet, you can Google anything, but before the internet, it was a nice visual reference to have photos on books.
I was just looking at the picture of the moon base there a moment ago, and I think someone had mentioned that there was a rumor going around that they were looking at doing a remake of the show called Space 2099. Now, of course, in our time, in real life, you would think there's going to be a moon base by, 70 years from now? And you think, mate, if they're going to build a moon base, it's got to look like moon base Alpha. If it looks like anything else, if it just looks like shipping containers stuck on them, pissed off. Not good. So you never know your luck in the big city, but it is a shame that it doesn't exist in real life, even though they don't necessarily, I suppose they don't have to deal with the gravity issue because depending on how fast the moon's traveling, they could replicate Earth's gravity. So yay team, the world is good.
or magnetic boots or something.
Yep.
Here is some of the other series of books, and you can see there were quite a few. So I could imagine if you're a Space 1999 fan, finding the full series of paperbacks in mint condition would actually be quite a challenge, because now you're getting to where they're 50 years old and they've been read a bit. Some of these things start to fall to pieces. Now, the one I particularly remember having there is the one sort of bottom center with the head of Maya, the alien, Catherine Schnell, who I think on that looks almost like a decapitated head. So I remember seeing that as a kid going, oh, what's this story all about? And I do remember buying that one and reading it, and I have absolutely no memory of what the story was, so it couldn't have been that great. But the books do bring back waves of nostalgia for me, because they were one of those things I'd kind of forgotten about. And when I was looking at them going, wow, I remember seeing sections of these in secondhand bookshops, and you just don't see them anymore.
It's interesting to see whether, I mean, I don't know the answer to this question, whether they kept writing novels after the show had finished, like Star Trek, for example. There was a million Star Trek novels being written while the show was finished, like in the 70s and the 80s and whatever. And with 1999, I don't know if they, I'm assuming they didn't. It's like, yeah, it's
No,
not
they
like
did.
anybody's writing them today or anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and they keep relaunching the series of comics and stuff like that. And for a show that went for 2 years, it has 4 annuals. So that's doing all right.
Yeah, okay.
And like all the other Gerry Anderson stuff, a lot of the kids sort of activity book publishers jumped on it, and there are various ones, and I have had a couple of these over the time. So Space 1999 obviously got more releases in Australia than UFO, which I basically never saw. That one on the top with the eagle flying past the moon with the black background, I think I had that for a while because I thought it was a particularly nice book. Down in the bottom left, you have Christopher Lee.
Yep.
At his appearance in Space 1999, immortalized in a colouring book. So there you go. He was one of those more interesting characters, and they did get a range of actors in Space 1999 that were known to people, probably because they put so much money into the budget.
Yeah, Rusky Ravers has made a point of saying they had script books at the time. They didn't have the Trekkie spin-off books, which is interesting because, like, when you sit and think about it, like Star Trek only had 3 seasons. 99 only had 2 seasons, so you could have thought there would have been a market for it, but clearly it just wasn't to be the case at all. So, but you were mentioning a moment ago, good old annuals, and here they are.
Yeah, so Space 1999 had the 4 annuals that you see there. Again, you used to see them around. Sorry, there's actually 6. What am I talking about? You used to see them around. I'm pretty sure the bottom 2 turned up in Australia as, you know, mass released ones in bookshops. The top 4 were always tough to find here, so they might have only been in specialty shops. But usually, and this happens in Australia, we get everything a year or 2 after it's released originally. And what I can imagine happened, we probably didn't get Space 1999 a year or 2 until after it was released. So there was no purpose in bringing in the earlier annuals. And then by the time it was popular and being repeated, it had probably finished. And so the later annuals were released here because we were the market who was watching it. So that's interesting that they did get so many annuals, because it wasn't a show you would think after its lifespan would be very well remembered. But it obviously sold. And the annuals, if we go to the next picture, are very similar to all the annuals from the time, where you've got a mix of text stories and comic stories and behind the scenes pictures, and none of them are very substantial.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight something. It's interesting to see the different types of font used for the title, and some of them have the colons and some don't. So, up to this point, the Space 1999 logo has been the same the whole way through. But on the annuals, there's definitely, like, you know, different variations here and different variations up there and all sort of things. So this is about the only one that's relatively correct. And this one here even has the colon missing as well. So that's the reason why I stayed on this picture. So, yeah.
So, yeah, it was only the last one that got the logo right. So there you go. You've got some inside pictures for the annuals. And as Russell was saying, you can see the alien at the top there. And it does really look like the green slime Hollywood movie Alien. And that was one of the more remembered episodes, which I definitely remember seeing a couple of times. The annuals were good because they had pictures of Moonbase Alpha. And as I was saying, at the time, you couldn't see these pictures anywhere unless they were published in magazines or books. So they would have been quite great things for kids to have under their Christmas tree, which is generally when annuals came out around Christmas. If you're a Space 1999 fan, as I said, they're a mixture of comic and text stories, and usually they're quite, light. They're not ever renowned for having anything amazing in them. They're more of a tradition to get than something that you hanged out for and read every year. But there's a lot of people that do collect them. So with Space 1999, there's some nice ones out there.
Good stuff. Now, there's a question way up here earlier. How hard is it the die-cast Eagle ships to get? Well, funnily enough, we're onto that now. I hope my hard drive hasn't fallen asleep because it's now time for this.
Alpha team in danger. Code red. Liftoff.
This is Space 1999 Eagle 1 spaceship.
Alpha control, we have contact.
You can jettison the cockpit and engines, then link them up. It's Mini Eagle 1 in visual contact.
Alpha control hookup is a go.
And their Eagle 1 rescue phase is complete.
Eagle 1, Roger and out.
Space 1999 Eagle 1 spaceship comes with 3-inch figures. Assembly required. You from Mattel.
I hope you heard the volume because it was very soft at my end, but I tell you what, that was pretty damn cool, wasn't it?
It was, and this is one of those things. This is what I wanted to discuss. How Mattel really put a lot of money into Space 1999 and thought it was going to be a big success. To do a big toy like that with such detail actually has a lot of lead-in time to get produced, and then costs a lot of money to market and get out there. And I tell you, that is an impossible toy to find. A lot of those probably didn't get sold, or the ones that did, because you can pull them apart and play with them, got destroyed by kids pretty fast. So I love that toy. I've never had it though. I don't think I've ever seen one even. I don't know if Russell's got one because he's a bit of a model collector. Have you seen that one before, Dad?
Nah.
It's a huge toy. It's a great toy.
I tell you what, that's it. That's impressive. I looked at that and I thought, I just got Chick Ching written all over it, even when they first made it. It's very funny because I watched the miniseries V, and I didn't think of putting pictures in, but in that they made merchandising in the show itself of the aliens that have arrived, and they actually have a spaceship, which actually looks like a variation of I just realised of the Eagle transport. It's roughly the same size and everything, so maybe that's where they got the idea from. But yeah, that has just got freaking money all over it. And yeah, if someone had a box one of those, they'd be almost able to write their own check. That is very, very cool. Yeah.
Very nice toy. But we're going back and looking at the dinky toys, which Colin was talking about. And for Space 1999, they, yeah, well, yes, some of these do get pricey. For Space 1999, they only released the Eagle. But occasionally when we go through these episodes, I'll put a toy out as one of the best toys ever. And I do think the Eagle from Dinky Toys is one of the best toys ever made. This was available for years after the series just because so many people loved it. They did different coloured ones. I don't think some of the colours appeared in the actual series. And if you wanted to get really pedantic about it, you could get them with red plastic boosters and also silver plastic boosters. But the thing with this toy was it was a very, very accurate version of the model. And unlike most Dinky toys, it actually did something. So you push a little button on the top and it actually drops off the midsection, which is the changeable section of the Eagle for different missions. And because they released different versions of it, you could drop off your scientific lab and then you could drop off your fuel pods and then you could get the Eagle to land and you could attach them back up and stuff like that. And I just think if you're a kid that loves science fiction, and this is in the mid-70s where the space race is still happening and they're going to the moon and you're getting all these different series on, this would be an absolutely fantastic toy which would fuel your imagination.
I love the fact that Eagle zooms into the year 2000, and it's like that is a very, very groovy. This was intended for Colin, but the answer is still relevant. So yeah, you can get $500, $700 for mint ones, 60 to 150 if you got used ones. So yeah, and of course, if you've got a boxed one, that would be cool. And I agree with you, dude. It would be pretty hard pressed to find someone who says, "Oh, they've got all three versions of the ship." Most people only had one or two. I mean, I don't even remember seeing the ones with the fuel canisters.
Pods.
The whatever they call it. I just remember the one with the white thing in the middle, the office thing.
Yeah,
can't get the words out, but you know what I'm trying to say. The freighter.
So yeah, here's some different versions of the packaging, because it was one of those toys that was around for so long. It went through various packaging examples, and if you look at the top there, it's a bit hard to see, but the green one shows one of the variants where the booster rockets on the one in the box is red, and the booster rockets on the one in the clear bubble are silver. So if you really wanted to collect them all, there's all these different variants. Getting them in mint condition is pretty hard. You do find them sometimes played with and chipped up a bit, but this is one of those toys you'd really like to have in mint condition. So it is one of those wish list toys for a lot of people that collect sci-fi in general.
Rusky Brothers confirmed, yeah, they're all white. I mean, they've obviously, because except for the stripe one for the medical thing,
Yeah.
you can see why they've put the colours in just to make them more visually appealing, and of course to make them a little bit more different for kids' eyes. Oh my god, green ones and blue ones! I always remember just the fact that they were green and go, oh, how cool is that? Didn't even look at them in the show to see
And
what colour they were.
As we've talked about before, in the mid-70s, people still mainly had black and white television, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly right. And as you would know, people who've got loose ones with all the nuclear tubs underneath, they're the tubs that always got lost. You probably find you got someone who says, when you got the ship with the bit missing out of the middle, regardless of what it is, it always looked incomplete. It's like, what the hell's meant to go under there? And of course, if you don't have all the canisters, then that's your price is going to plummet. So how many of those ended up going up the vacuum cleaner tube is anybody's guess. Yeah,
I know. And it was one of those toys. If you pegged it at your brother's head, you probably could send them unconscious as well, because it was quite a heavy. It was quite a heavy ship. Now, this is the one we looked at earlier in the ad. These are pictures from the toy fair for it coming out, but it was released, and it really does surprise me, because Space 1999 wasn't a huge hit, that a toy this big and this awesome came out. And it wasn't just a toy that was a static model kit. You could open it, had figures that would go inside. The figures were about the same size as Star Wars figures. So everyone says, Star Wars were the first ones to do the figures at this scale. Well, they had figures with this ship that were pretty close. And I tell you what, if you wanted to put this with your Star Wars collection, that could be a rebel ship that would be awesome part of your Star Wars toys too. I love the artwork on the top there. It's that sort of classic 70s artwork. Again, as Russell said, you're going to have to drop a bit of coin to get a nice mint one, but it would be really lovely to have in anyone's science fiction collection.
No, totally agree. I find it interesting that this dude up here looks nothing like Martin Landau. Well, these two down here look fine. They actually do look like the actual characters. So I don't know if that was intentional.
I think it's very interesting that they're all wearing Rebel X-Wing flight suits.
True. That's a good point, actually. So, yes, very, very cool. But, yes, and at least the ship is white as well. Like, obviously said, we spent so much money building the damn things. Don't worry about trying to paint it different colours. And as you said, you got the ships, which is all very groovy, but you need dudes to put inside them.
Yeah, and Alpha Moon Base. So it is one of those things where they're kind of classed as Mego, but they were brought out by Dennis Fisher and Mattel. So obviously the license was getting handballed around a bit. But they did bring out a range of figures. And of course, they brought out figures from both series, and they brought out the Moonbase crew. And they also brought out some of the aliens. The aliens from Space 1999 are particularly impossible to find. I have seen a couple of the figures over the years. Usually they're loose. They tend to turn up in good condition. I don't think they got thrashed as much just because of the nature of the show was a bit more sci-fi rather than action, but I have never had any of the aliens. So you've got some particularly interesting and groovy aliens there. Some of them look very close to what they were in the series, and some of them look like, well, maybe we have an alien toy, let's just slip it in a Space 1999 box and call it the Alien from Space 1999. A good range of stuff there. The good thing about Space 1999, if you're a collector and you like your toys, some of them are expensive, but it's not like Star Wars where there's 100 figures to collect. You get the dozen and you're done.
Yeah, if you can find them. I love the fact that even with the costumes, they've got the really large flares on the pants and all the rest of it. So they've got that 1970s vibe. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, you could probably take those costumes off and put them on the Mego Star Trek, and it'll look like the first movie from, when they're at Starbase out of costumes and stuff.
Yep, love it.
Now, here's some interesting stuff here. Space 1999 was quite well merchandised, and a lot of people picked up the license and used it on mainly rack toys, I guess, but you've got communicators and blasters and pistols and water pistols and things like that. But I love the Space 1999 official parachute because, parachuting on the moon is one of those things that works really well, isn't it? You've got colouring activity books and sets, and then you've got the Bagatelle, which is the little mini pinball machine, which is particularly hard to get. I've seen loose ones. I found a boxed one there. I'd never seen a boxed one for sale ever. So finding this could be quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think our mate Jeffro, who's not watching tonight, has a few of these things. I think because I've certainly seen some of them floating around his place. But yeah, that is very groovy. Having some of this stuff would be a nice little collection. I've got to be saying.
Yeah, the only one I have in my collection, I couldn't find it, was one of the Moonbase Alpha phaser pistols, which is a water pistol, but I don't know where I've put it. Here are some of the games, and they released a few games, which again says it must have been popular when they released more than one. Admittedly, one of them is Spazio 1999, so a foreign version, but that's fantastic when the show is popular enough that overseas the license gets some love and they release some international stuff. There's the big Space 1999 game. Admittedly, I have never played these games. I tried to have a look at what they were online. Some of these old board games I used to have, but I never came across any of these here. Both of them seem to be Moonbase Alpha, going through space and encountering things either in sectors, or the other one you're going around like a spiral into the middle of the board. Both of them are huge, which usually translate to they don't survive well, because the bigger a box is, the easier it is to get crushed and destroyed. So these would probably be quite challenging to get in good condition too.
Yeah, you look at the box artwork on the top left-hand corner, and that looks freaking awesome. You'd see that and you go, oh, yeah. Even if you'd never watched the show, just the name, the way it's presented, and the imagery is enough to say, yeah, I've got to go and check that out. Regarding the parachuting on the moon, I like this from Rusky Babes. Yeah, that's how Bergman died, testing the moon parachute. You're right, it didn't end well. But yeah, so a good old board game. Yeah, that would be very, very cool. They do look mighty fine, as did these.
Now, these are jigsaws, and again, I had a couple, but I did not realise there was that many released. I think the ones I've seen in Australia are the ones on the right in the blue boxes that used to turn up at fairs. Admittedly, I haven't seen any of these turn up for years. Jigsaws are one of those things that attrition with age kind of destroys every time people have a clear out. I think the pictures on these are pretty good. There's a good range of different stuff from the crew of the Moonbase Alpha, and then some of the aliens, some of the spacewalks and stuff like that. So I think if you were into this, there was sort of enough jigsaws that you could get one for Christmas every couple of years and you'd be pretty happy. The ones in the middle are particularly interesting for jigsaws because not only is the artwork interesting, it's not crap. And a lot of the jigsaws we see have sort of very average level art levels. Now, I do love it. When I say it's crap, it's lovable crap, but it's very basic pictures because they're jigsaws. But the ones in the middle there are almost like early versions of movie jigsaw, poster jigsaws that you could get later. And that would be one of the earliest examples I've seen of that for a franchise.
I looked at this picture up here, and it looks like they've taken the inspiration from This Island Earth. And what they've done is they've replaced the guy, the girl in that movie with the guy, and put the guy would be here with the girl, but the mutant would be in the middle. So it looks like that's possibly where they got the inspiration from that from. But,
I did think that, and the mutant has been replaced with like a mechanical ape or something like that. So
yeah.
That happens a lot where you get someone takes a classic poster. Probably what's happened there's two that are from existing artwork because they are from existing artwork. And the third one, they've said, we want one that's more poster-like. So the artist has gone, oh, crap, and found like a classic poster, This Island Earth, and then mimicked it with the Space 1999 characters.
But it's good that it's the guy who's being attacked by the alien and the woman's trying to save him rather than the other way around. So, yeah, something a little bit different, which is good.
Well, it is the 70s, Dags.
True.
But here we have the sort of the classic mainstay of just about every series through the 70s, and you've got the cards. And Space 1999 cards, I don't know if they were released here, but I found quite a few sets locally. They are all import sets, so I'm pretty sure Scanlan's never did them. And they are a nice set of cards, but what they've done is what they did with a lot of cards. They've used a generic border, sort of what they do with Kiss and stuff. So you've got this red and blue and then the white border, and they've just put the pictures from the show. And I was looking through some of the cards, and there are some amazingly nice pictures. And we've discussed it before. The death of trading cards was probably the internet, where pictures became more available online, so you didn't have to get the whole set. Up in the top corner there is another set of cards, and you can see they're playing cards because when you turn them over, they've got the different suits on the back, and they're artistic. And these are probably the last set of Gerry Anderson cards that did this. Even later series, they didn't really go back and do this sort of charming, almost 60s style artwork of collectible cards. So that's a bit of a passing of the era. And you can see that people have got these cards boxed, but also got them graded. So there are collectors out there of these cards that are trying to get nice graded versions. So again, it's just a nice set. The covers are very evocative of what you're going to get in the cards, and the cards are quite exciting. I can imagine if you open the cards and you get one of a eagle with lightning and blowing up on the moon, you'd go, oh, that's going on the front of my school folder kind of thing.
Totally agree. And of course, later on in the 80s, once with the video revolution kicked in, so did the Space 1999 videos.
Now, Space 1999 is one of those series that they really did release quite a few times over the years on different versions of video. Now, I remember my earliest memories of Space 1999 were probably actually hiring from the video library a couple of the episodes that they'd cut into movies like Destination Moonbase Alpha and The Cosmic Princess. They were ones that I probably saw first before I saw repeats of the show. These are another one of those series that in Minotaur you could go and buy them. Yes, there were the Sunny Crust Bread Space 1999 cards. I didn't put them up because we just run out of time. I do remember going into Minotaur and seeing, you know, each one between $40 and $80 an episode and going, I like it, but not that much. And I do think Space 1999 got a lot of video releases just because Martin Landau and the American cast meant it would get a dual release in America, which would trigger 2 different video releases. So you get like this bulk of tapes where you can see there's different series that were released all through the 80s and 90s.
So what we're going to show you, that was the videos. So what's coming up next is the DVDs. And I do recall they would do a version of the show that got released in widescreen. And I knew somebody who was a huge fan of the show. They said in widescreen, it was like a completely different program. And I can imagine that being the case too. And it wasn't a case of cropping it. They did some kind of really funky stuff with the imagery to make it widescreen. So, but I haven't actually seen it myself.
Well, widescreen would be amazing, and it was filmed, and then it was, of course, transmitted on TV. I did speak to someone who swears they remember seeing a cut-down couple of episodes at the cinema at a special screening. Now, I could find no record of that, but imagine Space 1999 on the big screen in the 70s. That would have been absolutely awesome.
Yep, agreed.
And there are movie-style posters, but I think that's more for the DVD and video releases. Yes, the widescreen experience would be an amazing thing, and it would show it as a totally different show. It just is one of those things where Gerry Anderson was quite smart by future-proofing a lot of his stuff by filming it on film and then keeping all the different elements so you could reassemble it later, which is more smart than shows like Star Trek. When they've come to do that, it's been particularly expensive because they haven't got all the elements and they didn't film it in widescreen. They filmed it in widescreen, but they knew it was going to be cut down. So what they did on the sides of the screens wasn't up to broadcast quality kind of thing. I have Space 1999 and pull it out and watch it once in a while. And so does Phil, he was telling us earlier.
Yeah, very good stuff. So go and check it out. Now, last week when we were doing the UFO review, we came across the section of the women of UFO because it was an interesting sort of thing to cover off to see how women were sort of treated and looked upon in the 70s in these shows. And of course, we're just going to quickly, because we're almost at 10 o'clock, run through the Women of Space 1999. So over to you, Mr. Aaron.
Well, I think they probably got the balance more right in Space 1999. I think in UFO, they did push the sexual angle, and they tried to do it as we're liberated and women are like this, but it obviously was through a male gaze, and they proved that by sort of the men's magazines that a lot of the pin-ups appeared in and the way that it was advertised. Space 1999, it still had that sort of futuristic costumes that sometimes aren't so practical as well as they are revealing. One of the prime examples of this would be for Maya, where they've gone with the flesh-coloured sort of tight suit, so she almost looks naked with stuff sewn over the top of it. But I think it wasn't in the foreground as much as it was in UFO. So there was a lot of beautiful women in both of the series. In Space 1999, maybe they weren't used as set decoration quite as much as they were in UFO, and there isn't a purple wig in sight.
Yeah, or a miniskirt, as we saw in Star Trek.
Now, it is interesting, when the show came out, they still did push this girls, 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 Space 1999, and not in the kind of magazines you might expect. They are magazines that aren't around, but they were like Starlogs at the time. This is Space Wars magazine. I wonder, that came out before Star Wars, so it's one of those things that sort of didn't quite get it right. Imagine if they called it Star Wars magazine before Star Wars. They'd have been onto some money then. But then you do have these articles where it's the Girls of Space 1999, and you've got pictures of girls, Christopher Lee, pictures of girls, pictures of girls, pictures of girls. And a lot of these were obviously sent out as this kind of publicity because the same pin-up pictures appeared in quite a few magazines of the time advertising the show that was coming out.
Jacqueline's made a point of saying Lost in Space women were very gender stereotypical. Yeah, that's very, very true, actually. And I guess one thing about this particular show, if you're all on the moon base, you're obviously there for a reason. So if whether you're a male or a female performing a certain job, you're there because you're there to do the job. And it's not a case of like all the males dominate the females. And I think that probably was a good sign of how things were changing over the times. Because as you said in UFO, the women were very sexualized. We're here not so much, which is particularly cool. And just winding back a little bit regarding how the quality of the show looked, Russell made a point of saying that the FX and the camera, so they like multiple exposures, so they didn't have the film quality loss through the match shots, which is particularly cool. So, yes. So, yeah, it just goes to show that, 10 years prior, when you're in the 1960s, things were completely different the way women were sort of treated. You go fast forward 10 years, and Jacqueline's made a point of saying Barbarella. Yeah, Barbarella was intentionally a very, very sexualized show, but that was the nature of how it was made. But yeah, once you got into the mid 70s, things were starting to change a little bit depending on what show you're watching. And I think maybe for some people, 1999 was a good way of saying everybody's equal, which is particularly cool. It's not a case it's a gawk fest of all the women. You actually just treat them as is, which is particularly cool. This is our last image.
Yeah, so this is Star Wars magazine, but this did come out after Star Wars was released, and this has got articles on Star Wars. It is one of those interesting sort of mid-70s, late 70s magazines where Sci-Fi was still doing the issues with pictures from sci-fi artists and stuff like this, but there was a big article on Catherine Schnell, the brightest star in the heavens, and you've got again the typical sort of glamour shots with her with an interview about Maya in Space 1999. And this one they've got girls, Brian Glessed, girls. So it was obviously still aimed at that sort of audience that they're thinking, well, you're going to get these sort of sci-fi geeks pick up this magazine. Maybe if we put this in it, they're going to go, well, I think I'll watch this show and check it out. So again, Space 1999, although it had a much more enlightened view of women than UFO did, and there weren't quite as many scantily costumes and almost strip teasers online, they still did use women as advertising from that point of view to get that extra audience coming in and watching the show.
Which then prompts the question, what was the audience demographics? I mean, I guess a lot of young males in the 70s loved the spaceships and the base thing and all the rest of it. I do wonder whether it was like 70% male, 30% female, or was a 50-50, just purely because of the nature of what it was. I mean, Star Trek, one of the reasons why Star Trek was so successful is because it was very much appealed to both genders equally. So I do wonder with 1999 whether that was the same or whether it was a bit imbalanced. So, but either way, they certainly didn't exploit it by the sounds of it.
I find it quite fascinating how women have been portrayed in science fiction over the years. And I would love to do a show, Women of Science Fiction, but then we would probably get branded as sexist for doing it. So it's one of those, do you, don't you? Probably not. Probably just doing little bits like this on the relevant shows is enough.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Now, just quickly, and even though it's very funny, it's like a space station, but it's on a moon base. Shows have been done before, like with Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and Babylon 5. Do you think if they were to do 1999 again, updated for today's audience, do you reckon it would work or not? Do you reckon it's sort of a product of its time and it just have to leave it? What do you think?
I think it's one of those things where at the time people just believed what was on science fiction shows because generally we didn't have the internet and weren't as many people into science. And I think if they did one now, like I said, if they did the effects on Earth and Earth was destroyed as the moon went into space, it could be quite an amazing pilot doing that, and the slow movement through space. I don't think you could do the moon is going out of the solar system in 2 weeks kind of thing.
No, you can certainly change that. I get that, but whether there be sustainable stories, because the audience these days is a lot more sophisticated. Back in the 70s, we hadn't seen that much stuff. Now we've seen everything. and that
Yeah.
includes like your shows like your Expanse and whatever else. So would it actually even work as a single 10-episode series for people to say, yes, I'm dialed into it, I do believe it, even though we've had a lot of moon-based movies and TV shows before? What do you think?
I reckon they should do a show where they try and slingshot the moon round the sun to go back in time to save the whales.
That's the answer I was waiting for. Nicely done. And on that note, that's right. There was the Moon movie a couple of years ago. So yes, moon bases are a bit more of a common thing now, a bit more so than they were back then. With that in mind, believe it or not, it's just a sniffle after 10 o'clock. It's time for us to wrap up on Mr. Aaron's amazingly amusing joke. I mean, you get your great George and Gracie whales and you stick them on the moon and go, shit, we've got the ocean. Damn.
Well, to seriously answer your question, I think it as a mini series event, I think it could be a really good reboot, actually.
Yeah, that's probably what you could do. Just a limited series only as a one-off, just to shoot a shits and giggles, and away you go. So very, very cool. Any final words before we sign off for the night, Mr. Aaron?
No, just rip it out of orbit.
Love it. Hang on, what? I don't think you could do a show like that unless there was a new space race going on. Oh, yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, don't know. So, yes, indeedy doody dotty. If you ever want to see a base on the moon, you can watch out things like Iron Sky, where the Nazis built a moon base on the far side of the moon. Oh, there you go. Everybody's built bases on the moon. It's just the normal thing now. All right, we're going to buzz off and leave you to it, and we'll see you all next week. So be sure, if you do have these Space 1999 collectibles, what do you do? Keep it mint in box, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, or like I said, rip it out of orbit.
Love it. All right, leave you to it, guys. Take care. All the best.
Good night, guys.